This program is brought to you by Apply Mortgages.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Masters. The ghosts in the machine have been evacuated and we are almost ready to go with our first match of the evening. Jordan Shepard taking on Chris Melling. What a night we have in store in our last 16. That's the arena at the moment. Got a little bit of a viewing public in as well. What an evening. So I've been looking forward to this Group 1 for the better part now of 3 months, and it's finally here. Cannot wait to get going. And what a curtain raiser for the last 16, with a match between not only two of the best players around, but two of the most showmanistic, two of the most flamboyant, two of the most entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. They really are two of the best players you could ever wish to watch. We've seen so much of Jordan Shepard here on Free Sports with everything that he's won, but Chris has been one of the best players around for a very, very long time, and he does everything with such an amazing style, especially his break as well is so powerful, gives him so many opportunities, and he gets to break first.
Yeah, the observant amongst you will have noticed the change in match clock. We are running at 45 minutes for the last 16 and onwards, and a 30-second shot clock is now in operation as opposed to the previous 45. And Chris has come to play. That's a great first hit.
Yeah, giving himself good opportunity. He made a ball, and I'd say it's a sign of how powerful he is with the break. Actually, I think that's one he hasn't caught as well as he normally would hope to. And he's still given himself a decent opportunity. All these yellows have a pocket. One nearest the right centre pocket. Just needs to be careful, not just with landing on it, but the route he's going to have when he comes out from potting that ball. And the 8 ball as well, the obvious pocket being the left centre, but he needs to land nicely on it if he's to get that far.
Jordan Shepard settling into his chair comfortably. He won't want to spend too much time in it, of course.
Yeah, looking very relaxed, waiting for his first touch of the table.
It's great to see, because I think we saw in the first week of this competition a relaxed Jordan Shepard is a very dangerous Jordan Shepard. Looks as good as he has done in a long time.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to watch and play against Jordan for a very long time, and I haven't seen him play that well for a few years. It was brilliant to see, especially on the back of the Champions League, where he had a poor performance certainly by his standards. Chris was just double-checking that the 8 ball still goes to the bottom left-hand corner, and I think it does. I think he's fairly comfortable with the way that landed. It could have been a lot worse. Chris making those shots look very simple. Cut back on to a slightly blind pocket, slightly awkward queuing as well. No problem. In fact, he can land on this 8 ball into the centre pocket, which makes it even easier. There you go. That camera tells us there's plenty of room, and what a start here for Chris Melling.
Oh, I know he's not been seen much on an 8 ball table of late. It's a long, long time ago since he advanced through his group. Second week of the competition. And Chris Melling has never been away. You wouldn't think. That was a top start from the man they call the Magician, and there's good reason for that. He is that showman, isn't he? The man from Keighley, 2 times world champion, 2 times world master, and has just really won the lot, and has done it in different codes as well, which I find the most remarkable. He's a sensational 9 ball player. He plays very good Chinese 8 ball. He's been an excellent snooker player in his time as well. Just give him a cue, and no matter the size table, size balls, doesn't matter. He's amazing.
Yeah, and one of the big things for me is the fact that he manages to chop and change between those codes. We've seen other players play, to reach the heights that he has on all those codes, but to be able to chop and change between them, it's very hard to do.
Tell you what, Jordan Shepard got a touch there. That cue ball was screwing straight into that corner pocket, and he got a little run of the ball there as the red just took it away. And look at the leave he's been left with.
Yeah, that cue ball was flying in, so touch fortunate to keep it on the table, but even more so when you consider, look at that split. Chris had a little bit of work to do with his clearance to negotiate. Yes, so every ball had a pocket, but he was able to play a couple of cannons he needed to work it out. less work required for Jordan Shepard to get off with the same start and a breaking dish.
Yeah, it's one of those that I think any player, like if you were offered a first visit in a big match, it's your dream first visit, isn't it?
It really is. He's just giving some consideration to whether he plays on the plant. I think if he was a slightly different angle, he probably would. From here, if he leaves himself playing onto the red into the left middle as his last ball, then he just has to make sure he avoids that yellow in the triangle area, which is why he wants to play the plant.
Well, we're used to seeing fireworks from these two. So far, it's been fairly routine. Simple 8 ball here for Jordan Shepard to square things up at 1 each. That was never missing.
Frame.
Still raised the hand just to apologise for the cue ball nearly going in off the break and the touch of fortune he had. But once you get that fortune, you have to make sure and take advantage, and he's done that.
Well, there he is, the Welsh Wizard. Currently resides in Doncaster, but very much a proud Welshman, Welsh international. Those shootout victories are the ones that always jump out at me. He's won enough events in other organisations to warrant being taken as seriously as anyone. But those shootout victories always stand out because he has seemingly mastered the art of playing to the clock, which is a pretty unique skill in 8-ball pool. It's only really in Ultimate Pool have we seen it in the last couple of years since we've had the shootout events, the Super Series last summer, this event, the Champions League, where the clock has become such an important part of the match. Jordan Shepard seems to have mastered that art.
Yeah, and it's not just the sort of shot clock and the nature of a very short shot clock, which obviously, you know, there's a lot of talk about how well that suits Jordan being one of the quickest players around. But it's also the way he masters the match clock as well, and knowing the right time to slow things down, the right time to, you know, to kill the clock and to use that to his advantage. The one thing I would say is that he's playing against somebody that, from all the different codes of the game that he's played, Chris Melling has certainly got the knowledge and the know-how around the table with that side of things as well. And he's also one of the quickest players around, just like Jordan.
Yeah. Genuinely think you could probably play this match at a 15-second shot clock and you wouldn't see too much of a reduction in quality. That's how quick and how good these guys are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 30 seconds that we have here at the start of the match is a bit of a non-event. They're going to play at that sort of pace regardless. It's just going to be the odd shot here and there where they want to take a few extra seconds to think about it, but then they have that extension, 1 per frame if they need it. So, yeah, the shot clock I don't think is going to be much of a factor for them. Chris is working these out really nicely. Plenty of room to land on the red at the bottom of the table, but just needs to make sure he leaves himself an angle to drift down to the right part of the table. Looks a touch straight for me. Yeah, I didn't think he was going to be overly happy with the angle he's left. It's hard to get the cue ball down towards that right centre pocket. Yeah, he tried to, and I don't think he's reached. Can he see any of this red?
Well, if anyone can.
He may have to just swerve this a fraction and play cushion first and try and flick it in, but that yellow even then might still be just about in the way. Looks awfully tight. Can he just
Extension
cushion
call.
first? Potentially. Well, that's a great camera angle.
Not far away.
Foul. Ball in hand. Time running.
This is how close you came. This will tell us.
The problem he had with that shot is that the ball he was trying to swerve around was very close to the object ball, and so the swerve had to happen very, very late, which is hard to do.
Yeah, even if you're a master of that shot, which Chris Melling is. I've seen it on this table a couple of times in this tournament and in the Champions League, the sort of things that he can do, that the magic that gives him his name, that moniker is well earned. He couldn't get out of dodge on that situation, and now what a chance for Jordan Shepard here to break serve. In a match of this standard, these chances have to go, and they invariably do.
And he's also helped by the fact that the only ball on the table that's, you know, we'd call a slightly difficult ball in terms of the 8 ball going across to that side cushion. It's actually a massive pocket with that red being where it is, so I wouldn't say it's unmissable, but it's not far off. Although that's not the best shot he's ever played. He's a long way short when you consider he's trying to leave the 8 ball into the bottom left-hand corner, and the cue ball from the angle he's potting this yellow is going to be coming down the table.
Just about the worst place you could have put it on the table.
Yeah, you could overhit that positional shot by a long, long way. I don't know whether he was perhaps playing for it in the centre pocket and overhit the shot because of the way he's played it. Difficult to tell. Potting the ball wasn't the problem. It was the position, and that has not worked.
Well, time for Jordan Shepard to whip his wand out.
Yeah, and if he's, I mean, what's he going to do here? A safety shot, perhaps? I mean, you could say he could raise the butt of the cue and try and make this into the top of the table. The referee would have to be pretty eagle-eyed, but it's not really a shot that he wants to take on. So it's going to be the safety. Well, the problem he has here, if he hasn't, I'm assuming that Chris can't cut this in, he hasn't left the 8 ball over the middle pocket, which makes the safety easier for Chris. Here's Chris thinking about being a touch more aggressive, and yeah, he's coming cushion first, trying to pot this.
Oh, that's close, isn't it? It's a great effort.
Yeah, but this is where Jordan not leaving the 8 ball over the middle pocket comes to hurt him. I suppose it works both ways. If he leaves the 8 ball over the middle pocket and Chris makes that shot, then you're thankful for it. But now that Chris has missed it.
Shot. Had just about enough wiggle room on that back double. Judged it to perfection. Beautifully played. And eventually Jordan Shepard breaks that serve that we talked about. He got there by hook or by crook, but that is an important frame to win, I think, if you're Jordan Shepard. The two just sharing a bit of a conference about it.
Yeah, it's a massive frame. We could be looking back at that, those couple of shots, the miss from, or the positional error from Chris, and then Jordan getting away with not making the counter clearance. We could be talking about that at the end of the match, because there may not be that many mistakes in the match.
Frame number 4. Jordan Shepard to break, leading 2 frames to 1.
Jordan's first break was brilliant. He's controlled the white a lot better there as well. Oh, and there, well, there's your karma, isn't it? That's instant.
Ball in hand,
got saved
time running
in the first frame and gets horrifically unlucky in the second break. That's tough.
Yeah, there's no doubt he should have gone in off on one of the 2 breaks, just not the one that he did.
Funny old game, isn't it?
It is a funny old game. I tell you what, though, Chris will be happy that at least he gets to have his hand on the table straight away, having made the mistake in the previous frame. Try and right the ship straight away. Although his problem, and you can see him looking at it right now, is that red and yellow that have come together at the bottom of the table.
Cheeky little left-handed shot from Chris Melling. Beats the clock.
So I think he's trying to break out the red and yellow at the bottom of the table now, using the 1 cushion. And that's not really worked, although he may well be able to play that the yellow almost in the middle of the cushion at the bottom there, off the red. That might just about open up the pocket for him. Obviously, in a shot's time.
He doesn't look too unhappy, does he? Which makes me think he's got a plan for this.
Yeah, he may need to play this fairly firm. If he plays it off the red, there's every chance that red could still hit the jaw and then hit the yellow and stay in the way of the yellow. So he may choose to play it a bit firmer and open it all up. Well, he opened it up. He just didn't get the yellow to drop. But it's not the worst result for him.
Yeah, good news, bad news. Obviously, the missed pot is disappointing, but in terms of what he's left Jordan to come back to, could be a lot worse. Jordan needs an extension just to figure this out.
Yeah, the red on the left-hand side being blocked. Obvious problem to the bottom right-hand with that yellow taking the pocket and 2 or 3 reds requiring that pocket. Plenty of work. I think Jordan was thinking about getting the cue ball through a fraction more and then playing the red on the side cushion into the yellow and take that pocket back. Might still do it with this one. That's what he was trying to do. He wanted the red to stay over the pocket and block off the yellow on the right there, but the red's come away. But he has got the cue ball where he wanted to in terms of a safe part of the table.
Yeah, quite a clever shot that from Jordan.
Of course, those of you new to international 8-ball rules, not a foul to pot your opponent's ball. As long as you strike your ball first, it does create these interesting tactical exchanges.
That's a really good safety reply, actually, from Chris. Jordan recognising it as such. 2 taps to the table. It's a really good one.
Yeah, he's got him in all sorts of trouble here. If he's not touching ball on that red, then he's got a real problem because he has to hit a cushion after contact with this red. And it's, yeah, very difficult to not leave something on. Okay, he's left the yellow into the middle pocket, but I don't think he'd be that disappointed because it's difficult for Chris. You can pop the yellow into the middle easily enough, but how do you land on your next ball? Can he drift up for that yellow past the 8-ball? Possibly, but then getting onto the last yellow is going to be even harder. Oh, he's managed to get the cue ball much, much further up the table than I expected, and the tap on the knee from Jordan tells you how good a shot that was.
He really does make the tricky look so routine, doesn't he? Oh, I've given him the commentator's curse there. Just played 2 fantastic shots. This is tough cueing, but it's one you absolutely never expect him to miss. And Jordan Shepard here. Another let-off towards the end of a frame.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge miss from Chris. Yes, he was hampered cueing, but I was already chalking that one up for Chris. Did not expect that to come.
Yeah, you're furiously scribbling out.
Yeah, exactly.
Just never, ever expected that not to go.
Not the best first shot from Jordan, though, but he should be able to recover it. And that helps as well. Just that red, just going that fraction further. At least they haven't welded together and been a problem, although he isn't on the next ball. We can't see that red nearest the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a problem here.
It's a problem of his own making as well, which will frustrate him. Oh, he could get through to it. Lovely
He's back on track. Yeah, really, really good little shot that from Jordan.
Yeah, a couple of great recovery shots, really was. Shouldn't be any problems from here, but then we were saying that a minute ago with Chris, so needs to make sure.
Yeah, they are human after all. Simon's gone for his notes again. Have you learned nothing? For 3-1. It was never in doubt, was it?
Yeah, got it right this time.
You see there, Jordan's body language, I think a little bit relieved. It's not been easy going for either player. This is the key moment in the match so far.
Yeah, you could just see the hampered cueing was just slightly awkward.
Well, let's remind ourselves of how these 4 gentlemen got right here. Jordan Shepard seeing off Clint Ianson in the very first match of the tournament. What a way to kick things off that was. He then got by Jez Graham in round 2. Chris Melling beat the super youngster Luke Gilbert, and then Dylan Leary, who got by John McAllister earlier on in the night. It was a tough group that for Chris to get out of.
Chris Melling to break.
Phil Harrison's performance against Mark
frames to
Farnsworth, we already talked about earlier. Rob Chilton getting past Phil the Power Taylor in round 1, and then an altogether tougher match against former world champion Carl Morris, which was a great match. And Chris Melling there has just exploded that pack. Look at that.
His break is just absolutely brilliant. He has such a long cue action that when he delivers that cue, he can really drive the cue ball through the pack and generate so much power easily.
Red ball's in play.
It's just perfect for breaking, and he gives himself so many great opportunities from his own break.
It's not just the power, though, is it? He's such a natural cue artist. It's all in the timing as well. And when you've got, sometimes you can have one or the other, but when you've got that beautiful mix of both, which he does in his break, it's a work of art, isn't it?
It really is. A lot of people tell me how much luck is involved in the break, and yes, there is luck, but there's a reason why someone like Chris Melling breaks better than most. And he needed this at this time as well.
Yeah, I should say. Rattles off the frame in next to no time. Back to 3-2, 25 minutes remaining. At 20 minutes, 5 frames have gone. And speaking of the break, let's have a look at the tournament's top break dishes, and perhaps a surprise name at the top of that tree, but not if you're Chris Day. And speaking to him on the night, he was disappointed to have been eliminated by Simon Fitzsimmons, who's 3rd in that list. Chris playing really, really well on that night. Just didn't quite get the opportunities to win, but as you can see there, both Phil Harrison and Rob Chilton are in that select group. We'll see those later on. Stunning performance from so many players, but interesting to see neither Jordan or Chris on that list.
Yeah, I think Chris had 3 for whatever reason that didn't. You would expect him to be higher up on that list. The sort of player we expect to see, you know, around the 50% mark for breaks to break dishes. Jordan's break doesn't get talked about anywhere near as much as he comes up dry, but it also doesn't get talked about in a negative light either. It's just a very solid, efficient break. Very rare you see it consistently let him down. And
I might disagree with you right now, though.
The one thing, there is luck on the breaks. Every now and then you will get them dry, even if you hit them as well as he did there.
Yeah. The main reason, we were talking about this earlier, the main reason Jordan Shepard isn't in that list predominantly is because the majority of the frames that he won against Clint Ianson came in the form of reverse dishes. He played superbly well, just not necessarily of his own break, it was his opponent's.
Yeah, he had. For me, it was one of the best performances I've seen from Jordan in a long, long time. And yeah, I thought, you know, looking back at the match or remembering the match, I felt like he had more break dishes. But when I looked back through my notes and I saw it was majority of them, the finishes were off those dry breaks from Clint Ianson.
That was a tough shot for Chris. You can see he's not quite fully at home on the 7x4 just yet, is he?
No, just been slightly off with his cue ball control. Even in the previous frame, when he missed that 8-ball a couple of frames ago, it wasn't, okay, he was awkward cueing on the 8-ball, but if he was at his absolute best, he wouldn't have been awkward cueing, but it was the ball before that where he left himself more angle on the one down the cushion than he would like. It's just that extra level of precision that we'd normally see from him. Hasn't played a huge amount of this version of the game since his appearance a few months ago in the last round.
Yeah, it's something we talked about a little bit at the beginning of the match. Like, one of the most impressive things that he does is the ability to switch sort of codes and even games in general with his cue sports, but it does sometimes come at a detriment. You do get the feeling that if he'd have picked one, you might have gone down as the all-star of that individual game, but also you get that sort of transition period. It's natural. I know how good Chris Melling is, but even he always needs that little bit of time to warm back up to whichever he's taking on at the time.
Yeah, it's a big debate, I suppose. You know, would you be, you know, how good can you be if you dedicated to one rather than trying to chop and change and play all the different versions? And I mean, he's at an elite level on every version of the cue sports that he actually plays. It's incredible what he can do in multiple different cue sports. As we see Jordan make pretty light work of this clearance.
first to 7, remember. So 4-2 is a decent lead to hold. Jordan Shepard is 3 away. Touch over 20 minutes remaining. As we look ahead to next week, this is a great little group, this. In the last 16, Carl Sutton against Sam Bircher for a place in the quarterfinals. And how about Josh Kane, the killer versus the destroyer in Declan Brennan. That is a great, great matchup.
Yeah, we've got some great matchups in this stage of the competition, but for a few reasons, I think that's one of my favourite matchups we've got, is that Josh Kane versus Declan Brennan. It's both played so well to get through to that stage. Declan really making a name for himself in the game right now, one of the best players around, one of the favourites for every tournament he plays in. Really looking forward to seeing how next week plays out, but of course, we've got this week to find out how this week's going to go as well. And
yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It's just every single week now.
Trailing 4 frames to 2.
I think it's Josh Kane as well. Match of the tournament for me against Jordan Church.
Yeah, and me. Yeah, it was just brilliant. Chris makes another ball off the break, and he really could do with a finish. It's not
the most obvious, is it?
Yeah, it's not as simple as a couple that he's had. Looks like Reds is going to be his choice, and he's able to open everything up with that first shot, which is good. That little cluster at the top was going to be his problem with the Reds, but excellent opening shot. And okay, he's going to need the spider, which is incredibly rare for a game of pool. But he doesn't have to do anything with the cue ball, which is important here. Just push it through an inch or two, get off the cushion. There we go. That leaves the angle he needs to pot this red and drift down towards the middle of the table.
Not happy, is he, Chris?
No, he just can't quite get hold of that cue ball how he would like. I was going to question mark whether the red just above the 8 ball goes to this bottom left-hand corner, and very difficult to tell from this main camera angle, but the fact that he's shaking his head tells me that it probably doesn't, because he'd be perfect on it right now. Oh, he's tried to move it, and it's not perfect, but it's a shot. It's a chance. This goes through the gap. Has to avoid the yellows with the cue ball. Oh, excellent. Well, if anything, he's just overhit the cue ball by a few inches, so he now needs to go back across the table and avoid those yellows once again.
Yeah, he's dancing with the devil a touch here, hasn't he? We've seen the spider, now we see the rest. I think that's the first time in any of our tournaments we've seen both of the apparatus out on one frame, and Chris is okay. He's got a shot.
He does have a shot, but it's tough. He wanted to be a lot better on the 8 ball than this, and he's already missed one 8 ball tonight.
He's missed another. Jordan Shepard, for the 3rd time in a match, comes to the table with barely any of his opponent's balls on it. And that means this is now another massive chance. Chris did really well there just to give him a shot. Himself a shot. He was a little bit unlucky on the cannon he played, that he wasn't able to go through to the other reds, which would have left that finish much, much easier. Red into the left middle, 8 ball into the bottom corner. Would have made his life so much easier.
No counter clearance on this time for Jordan. Those 2 yellows on the right-hand side above the 8 ball, causing a real problem. So he's going to play a snooker and try and get a foul from Chris, or wait for an opportunity to play a safety off those yellows, open them up whilst keeping it safe.
Well, these are the sorts of positions that, from a purely selfish point of view, I love seeing Chris Melling in. He's unlucky.
Foul.
But you could see the way that he was lining up his cue.
Time running.
And the thing is, you just never know. You could have watched Chris for the last 20 years of his pool playing career. You wouldn't necessarily know what's coming. Only he knows what's coming next.
Yeah, he's capable of making something in that situation. You know, he's not just trying to hit that 8 ball, he's trying to hit that 8 ball in a specific angle to try and make it. This time probably as a double, and he's a little bit unfortunate to go in off, which gives Jordan the opportunity to pick his angle on that pot to the corner to develop the 2 bad balls. But Chris is so good at potting from snookers, even in that situation where it looked highly unlikely, you are still slightly nervous.
Yeah, he had one in the Champions League as well, didn't he? From the top right down to the bottom left, which was just ridiculous.
I think it was voted on social media as the shot of the tournament.
Yeah, Gio Edgar a little bit unlucky to miss out, but I mean, it was insane.
It was an incredible shot. I was in the Gio camp, if I'm honest, but it was still an incredible shot.
Well, Jordan surely can't err from here. At least in this frame. Still a long way to go, of course. He will be 2 frames from home should he polish this one off, but I mean, you never write off Chris Melling. These are the margins though, aren't they? It doesn't take a lot, and all of a sudden you can find yourself bang up against it. Chris has played well, he's had his moments, but he's had a couple of really costly mistakes.
I think that's the key. The mistakes that Jordan has made, you know, he's had a couple of positional errors himself, haven't cost him. He's been able to still win the frame after making those mistakes.
Jordan Shepard 5-2 up, 2 from home. I talked a little bit about the break earlier. How about your top breakers? This is the percentages for balls made off the break. Carl Morris leads the way. He was breaking like a truck in that week 4. Still wasn't enough to get the job done against Rob Chilton, and we saw how high Carl was in the break dish category as well. He was superb. Looking forward to seeing him on the Pro Tour coming soon. Simon Fitzsimmons was magnificent in his performance. Take a look at the bottom there, by the way.
Yeah.
Our fan dad, who qualified, by the way, if you weren't aware, 8%.
It's the argument that for this game is not just about making balls off the break and everyone then mops up after that, because yeah, I think there was just one break where Arfan made a ball and he was able to qualify through.
Extraordinary.
It really was.
Red balls in play.
I will go as far as to say I don't think Arfan could win the tournament if he continues to break 8%, but you know, a great effort to make it through this stage. Massive visit to the table right now for Chris. These are open, these are on. He's had a few opportunities like this where he hasn't been able to do so because he can't quite control that cue ball. And
he has had plenty of opportunities off Jordan's breaks. 3rd break in a row that Chris comes to the table off Jordan's break.
It's just those little subtle shots like the one he's just played. Instead of playing, you know, if that previous shot goes an extra inch down the table, he plays a simple pot to the middle and comes down the table, got the one in the bottom left, then the one in the centre, and it's almost like a really routine map to route out for him. But that little bit short, having to use the yellow, and all of a sudden he's now chasing this finish. He just cannot get hold of the cue ball. He's still chasing here, but he's still on. As long as the red that he's next to still goes to the bottom right-hand corner, you can see him having a very close look at it. He can land on it down the down that cushion. And once again, another inch up the table will just make this shot easier.
Nowhere near.
The missed pots are starting to rack up for Chris, but it is down to the cue ball control rather than the potting itself. He was trying to pot that. He wanted to pot it thick just to hold the cue ball. He feels like if he pots that centre pocket, then cue ball could run away from him.
Yeah, you can tell, because usually when you're playing those shots down the rail, a lot of players tend to like just putting a little trace aside and it just to help it along. That was pretty much plain ball. And Chris Melling sat in his chair there is not a happy man.
He's going to be very frustrated simply because he's had enough chances to be in front in this match. Well, there's a missed pot from Jordan. Got away from it, as we said in the previous frame. When he's made a mistake, he has managed to get away with it.
I think he's played that with the idea that it's not the end of the world if he misses it at that weight.
Yeah, very tough pot. He knew full, I'm not saying that was a mistake. That he knew full well exactly what he was doing with that shot.
Just always think it's when you let Chris Melling back to the table, it is dangerous because he
5 seconds.
almost
Extension call.
always comes up with something.
Yeah, what's he looking at here is the double up to the top right on. Double to the top left is, but you can't really play a cue ball with that.
5 seconds.
It's a great effort. It's a really good effort. He would have been nowhere ultimately. I don't think he could have got through to the 8 ball from where he left the white, but well, Jordan Shepard's going to go one from home to knock out the reigning Champions League winner.
Yeah, just has to make sure. Still time left for this match to be turned around, but it's getting harder and harder because, as you said earlier, Jordan is going one away from victory. Races to 7.
Jordan Shepard is on the hill
Frame.
with less than 10 minutes remaining. 15-second shot clock has been introduced. And Jordan Shepard is 1 frame from home.
It's incredible. We talk about the break quite a lot, and so far in this match we've had 8 breaks, and Chris has got to play the first shot after the break on 7 of those 8 occasions, and he's losing. It's quite hard to believe, really.
He's had the most chances, he just hasn't taken them.
Yep.
Remind ourselves what's coming up next week. We take a look at the maps through the tournament. Josh Kane getting past Tony Blount, and then that wonderful match against Jordan Church. Declan Brennan overcoming Oli
Frame
Bale
9.
and Craig
Chris Melling to
Lakin
break.
in
Time
his
6
run
frames
through
for 2.
to the last
15
16.
second shot clock.
Well, Chris Melling let an extra bit into that, I think. A little bit of extra frustration in that knock, and he knows back's the wall. He's just got to go.
Red balls in play.
This is now huge odds against. Has to be almost perfect. Has to do it a decent lick, and already finds his way back to his chair.
Yeah, that must have been tighter than it looked. I thought that was going to be a very, very quick finish there. It looked nailed on, but that must have been a little bit tighter than it appeared. Still a surprising miss, because if it went at all, then Chris was right behind it. Chris's work in this competition could be done.
Not the match I expected at the start of the night, I must say.
Yeah, both players started off with a break and dish, and Chris looked like he was looking in really good shape for a third on the trot to start the match. You kind of thought, here we go, this could be an absolute dish fest, but it's been a case of Chris getting first opportunity and making a mistake somewhere along the line more often than not as a positional error, and Jordan just mopping up.
Jordan's not had to play super well to win, which I thought he would have to. Thought both players would have to. But Chris has made far more mistakes than I've ever seen him make. And Jordan Shepard has a slightly awkward one. Little shake of the head. This for a spot in the quarterfinals.
Foul.
It's not there. Cue ball's in.
Ball in hand. Time running.
Chris Melling survives for now.
For a second there, he would have been annoyed the 8 ball didn't drop, and then happy that it did. It didn't, because the cue ball went in. Not that I think it will affect the outcome of this frame now.
Maybe you wanted a man to play speed pool to sort of get some frames back with time against him. Chris Melling would be that man. He's back to within 3. Reminder, he still needs to be perfect. He needs to win all 4 remaining frames. Even if we have 4 remaining frames, he needs to win them all. Again, good to see both players having a chat. I'm a fan of this personally. What do you reckon?
Yeah, you see it a lot more in pool than you do in other sports. It's very rare you see this happening in other sports, but we've seen it throughout this competition. It's normally been fairly relaxed between the players out there. Sometimes you see it with Jordan, and sometimes I think if Jordan was 6-3 behind, I think you'd be less likely to see it.
6 frames to 3.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say.
I'd say so. Is he finally going to get his break to fire? No, Chris. Oh, last ball in. Chris takes a pew.
These haven't come out particularly well. Big problem at the top right. Could play some sort of 3-ball plant on the yellows. Have to pot the ball you're going for. So you have to, if you're playing a yellow, you have to hit a yellow first. But that shot is on for him.
Does that open up the frame?
Yellow ball's in play.
I think it does. Big chance now for Jordan Shepard to go and win it. Break dish here. And he's in the quarterfinal to face either Phil Harrison or Rob Chilton.
In some ways, this is a better chance than the one he messed up in the previous frame, simply because the position onto the 8-ball was always going to be tough to land perfect, and this time it's a lot easier with the 8-ball where it is to land on.
Gone about these beautifully, hasn't he? Jordan Shepard, quarter-finalist.
7 frames to 3.
Chris Melling is vanquished. The Champions League winner is out of the Masters. The Welsh Wizard conquers the Magician in Pool's own version of the Prestige. He's home. And an impressive win too, 7 frames to 3. Simon, a great performance in the end from Jordan Shepard, but is it fair to say that that wasn't quite the match that we expected to see, at least from Chris? I feel like Jordan didn't have to play the game that maybe we expected him to have to play to go and win that match 7-3.
Yeah, it was a case of Chris getting all the first opportunities and not taking enough of them. We saw the 2 break dishes for each player, but Chris had the majority of those first opportunities, which he took on every time. And it looked like he was going to make those clearances, but just a subtle positional error here and there made it more and more awkward. And obviously, we saw that miss black, or he's missed a couple of 8-balls in that match. And it's the difference really between it being a really tight match and actually being a fairly comfortable one for Jordan. To be fair to Jordan, he did what he had to do. The couple of break dishes he had. Yes, he made a couple of mistakes here and there, but they weren't ones that were going to cost him frames. They were just positional errors when he was mopping up, and he was still in control of those frames. So, yeah, probably one that got away from Chris fairly early, but Jordan did what he had to do to put himself in that next round.
He absolutely did, and he awaits the winner of our next match. Rob Chilton takes on Phil Harrison when we return. Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Masters. Jordan Shepard has punched his ticket to the quarterfinals tonight. He awaits the winner of our next match. A super win for Jordan. And Simon, as we say goodbye to Chris, we'll speak to Jordan obviously in a little moment, but as we say goodbye to Chris in this tournament, a shame to see him leave any tournament that he's in. Such an entertaining player to watch, but wasn't quite at his best tonight. Yeah,
there's no doubt. I think he'll look back at that match and be frustrated because he knows he had the opportunities to probably be as far ahead as he was behind, and wasn't able to take them. Wasn't quite the Chris Melling that we're used to seeing, but that happens. He hasn't played a huge amount of pool since this version of pool since his last round, and it's been a good couple of months, if not 3 months, I think, between first round to now. So yeah, that's probably part of the reason for that happening. But he'll be back. There's no doubt he's too good, and looking forward to seeing him in the next event. But Jordan goes through.
He certainly does, and he awaits the winner of our next match. And our first match was great. Our second match is lined up to be brilliant as well. It's a former European champion taking on a former world champion. It's Rob Chilton against Phil Harrison. Phil Harrison, unstoppable. Can't wait for this one. Cannot wait for this one. Both of these two men played so well the last time they were here. If they bring that form, we are in for a barn burner.
Phil.
Phil Harrison gets the nod to break first. Last time we saw him on this table, for me, this is a very subjective viewpoint because we've seen the best part of 64 players play. But for me, Phil Harrison put in the performance of the tournament when he was here last. He was absolutely sensational. Demolished Mark Farnsworth 8-1. And it's worth pointing, Mark did not play badly in that match. Barely had a chance. That was just how good Phil was.
Yeah, it's so easy for us, and I think I agree with you, but it's so easy for us because of the way the tournament is structured that we are on a weekly basis, that we seem to remember the great performances from the players in recent memory. But when we actually look back at how Phil played in that match against Mark Farnsworth, it really was one of the best performances we've seen in the competition. To take someone like Mark Farnsworth apart without barely giving him a shot, it's very impressive.
How often do you see that happen to Mark?
I'm not sure I have, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I feel like he's almost, you never see his standard drop that low, and you feel like nobody really takes him apart when they get the opportunities like that. I don't know if that's because he is who he is, or why it works out that way, but yeah, it's pretty staggering scoreline, really.
Well, Phil's just run aground early on in this clearance.
Yeah.
You could just see him
extension called,
just trying to hold the white up with a bit of telekinesis, but he has landed on this red. He's just awkward on it. He's actually really okay. Just wanted that one figuring out. You can see him and Scott Price having a little bit of chatter back and forth, player and referee. Main reason for that is Phil's hearing aid. He can't hear the beeps necessarily, so gets a bit more of a cue from our referee Scott.
One of the things I think that we saw from Phil in his first round match, he was just going to land awkward again, but I think he stopped just about in time. But was it the way that Phil used the shot clock? I think up until his performance against Mark, we were questioning how comfortable he was out there with such a short shot clock, 13 seconds and 15 seconds. But I think he's absolutely started to come to grips with it.
Got to be careful here, though. He was just about okay. He's one of the players that doesn't necessarily play slow, but he does take his time, likes to evaluate all the options.
You can see he wants to walk around at both ends of the table when it's an awkward shot, and he's got another awkward shot here, but with 30 seconds, you haven't got that much time to go wondering. He's done well to avoid the yellows, but he's not come far enough across the table. So this red's on, but it's very difficult. Cutting it back to the bottom right-hand corner, and then he's got to watch the cue ball as well.
He is so well known for his cue ball control. He's had a couple of shots go long, and this one is very short. Not quite got it on a string just yet. This will pretty much get him the first frame, though, if it can drop. And he's a long way off. Rob Chilton with a big first opportunity.
That was a visit that we sort of almost felt like Phil didn't have control of right from the start. It was always sort of awkward. His first positional shot left him awkward on his next ball, and he was always just chasing it and couldn't get back into perfect position, although I still felt like he was going to make that clearance. Rob's not quite in perfect position here. Could well just be playing a little snooker and developing these 2 yellows on the right-hand side. Just has to make sure he hits the cushion with the first yellow. There we go. A pretty tough snooker.
Yeah, he's dropped in right in it here. That's a real tough escape.
Underneath the table, mate, your side.
Oh, he's asking for the spider, so he's going to look for a 1 cushion escape, try and come off that top cushion and go between the 2 yellows. Has to get pretty close to the yellow on the cushion. He's going a different way.
It wasn't a bad effort in the end.
Foul, ball in hand.
But that'll give the
Sorry,
opening that Rob wanted. Snooker has paid dividends and he can cash in now. His first frame is in his hands. He was sensational, Rob, in getting through. He had the really unfancied task of taking on Phil Taylor in round 1, which I don't think, in some ways, I don't think any player wanted that draw, because there was no winner there, was there really? Rob got the victory, of course, but anything that went slightly against him there, he was in danger of making himself look a little bit silly.
Yeah,
It's a no-win situation as a pool player.
I completely agree, a no-win situation for him. A lot will get talked about with Phil playing in the competition, which was, personally, I thought was absolutely fantastic to see somebody, you know, a global sports star like Phil Taylor coming on and playing in this competition. But you're right, Rob was in a no-win situation, but we can't take away from the fact that Rob actually played a brilliant match there. He really took it to Phil. Yes, Phil made some mistakes in the match, but you know,
I don't think Rob made one, though.
No, Rob was brilliant. He really was. He was taking out, you know, really tough finish after really tough finish. And once he got himself 2 frames in front, he just relaxed and just played entertaining, almost exhibition-style pool. And it was brilliant to see.
And then, in his group final, him versus Carl Morris, one of my favourite matches of the tournament, actually. It was such a high standard, as we saw from those graphics earlier on. Both players were breaking brilliantly. Both players were barely giving each other chances. It really came down to the clock. That match, it was a really tight affair. Rob just edging through. He's made this clearance look pretty simple for 1-0.
And there it is. Excellent counter clearance there from Rob Chilton. Couldn't do it first time, so played that little snooker, which developed his only bad ball, or only 2 bad balls on the table in 1 shot, and from there, following that foul, no mistakes at all. So he takes that 1-0 lead, and he gets to break off in frame 2. Well, while the balls are being re-racked, we can go to Stephen Jameson, who is now with Jordan Shepard.
Yeah, I certainly am. Jordan, congratulations. A big win over Chris Melling. You've had to wait a long, long time to be back in this competition, best part of 4 months. You were brilliant last time we saw you. You've got a win against Chris Melling here. How pleased are you?
Yeah, well, over the moon really, especially with the way the chances went. Chris struggled. He said he hasn't really played at all, so like you can understand his mistakes probably.
And in terms of yourself, I know you have been playing a lot. You've been enjoying tournaments, being back, playing as much as you can. It's almost like you're making up for lost time, it feels like.
Yeah, I want to play everything. Them lockdowns, obviously I'm not going to go into it, but it was, well, yeah, let's not
long
say
year.
anything. Yeah, long 16 months or whatever, yeah. I'm just glad it's all over and we can get back on with our normal lives now.
In terms of your own form as well, is that extra practice, those extra tournaments, are you starting to feel into a bit of a groove now as a player?
Yeah, it helps when I've stopped boozing at events and stuff, so yeah, just practicing all the time, enjoying playing, got some good partners to play with in the club and stuff, and yeah, everything's good.
Obviously a tough group tonight. You've got through one very difficult hurdle. Whoever you play here is going to be a tough one as well. What do you think to both Phil and Rob?
Well, just watching the first frame there, I thought Phil really, he looked all at sea with the 30 seconds. It just looked like he needed that extra 10, 15 seconds, but obviously you can never write the guy off, especially after what he done to Farnsworth in the last round.
Well, we look forward to watching the rest of this, and we look forward to you playing the winner as well. Best luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Back to you, Si.
Well, we come back to the match and you see that positional error this time from Rob Chilton after a successful break. Could still take the double on here. Well, he is still taking on the double, but comes up very narrow. And he's going to turn the table over to Phil Harrison. He'll be looking to make up for that mistake in the previous frame. He's got a good chance here. Just the one bad ball on the table. Could potentially develop it first shot as well. As Stephen Jemison rejoins me back in the commentary box. And it's good to see Jordan Shepard in good spirits. I think before, he obviously, like so many, didn't, was struggling with lockdown. But I think for me, even before lockdown, I think he was just getting a little bit frustrated with his game, and he wasn't quite where he wanted to be, and playing at the sort of consistent level that we'd seen him for the year or two before that. So I think that little bit of a break, although he wouldn't have wanted it, has probably helped him and almost got his hunger for the sport back again.
Yeah, you can see it in the way that he plays, the volume that he's playing at the moment as well, because he's not just playing all his tournaments, he's also practicing seemingly relentlessly, which wasn't the case before lockdown, as you say. He sort of fell a little bit out of love with it, but he's a dangerous player at the best of times, but a motivated and an informed Jordan Shepard is a match for absolutely anyone.
Yeah, I think that's, we saw a year or two before COVID and the lockdowns that he'd really found a kind of rhythm, a consistency that we hadn't seen in his career, and then it sort of almost he started to get frustrated again. And if he can get back to that level of just concentration and consistency through his tournaments, he's going to be a danger for every single event he plays in.
Phil settled in this frame, which is good to see. We want a good match out of these two. So far it's even Steven, one each after two. Phil Harrison down in Cambridgeshire is, of course, the 2009 world champion. He's also a three-time world master, and more recently the two-time Supreme Series winner as well, which, I mean, win those competitions, you're as good as any player in the world, really. And just shows that despite him winning that world title all of 12 years ago now, he's still right up there at the very, very top of the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt when, you often hear the debates about who's the best player around right now, who's the best player, and Phil Harrison's always in that conversation. He may be a while since he won that world title, but he wins so many titles, and he is always there or thereabouts. That he is very much in that conversation, who's the best player in the world right now.
Oh, that's unlucky.
Foul. Ball in hand behind the break line. Time running.
That's tough to take if you feel he's creamed those. Good to see he's going for that stand-up break again. We saw this earlier on in the Masters. We didn't see it as much in the Champions League. But he sort of mixed and matched and decided what feels good for him at the time with his break, but just feel like, just from at least watching the last two tournaments, when you compare the Champions League and the Masters, the way he breaks in this tournament by comparison is night and day.
Yeah, no question. We thought it was something new that he was experimenting with, but spoke to a few people and it had been something that he'd played around with in the past. It's good to see him go back to it, because for me there's no doubt he's just hitting the break with a lot more power and giving himself a lot more opportunities. But you have to, if you are going to hit them like that every now and then, you're going to have to accept that you're going to get an unlucky one. And I think for me the key is not to let it affect you too much. He was unlucky to go in off there. Just believe that next time you hit them that well, you're going to get an opportunity and give yourself a chance to win the frame and clear up.
Still absolutely blows my mind, by the way, that Rob plays with that cue. We've not really mentioned it yet, but it is such a unique weapon, a unique tool, isn't it? Because not only is, and you'll see it now that if you didn't notice it before or didn't know about it, very, very short, but also the smallest tip in the world, really. I can't imagine anyone plays the smaller tip.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is. It's very, very short and a very, very small tip. Between his last performance and tonight, he has actually had a table put in at home in the garage, and for his ability to have more practice, and he said it was a little bit too tight for a pool table in there, but I guess if you're using a cue that small, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
and it's great to see Rob back taking this game as seriously as he ever has, really. He's had spells, hasn't he, where he's been sort of in and out of 8-ball. But I think with this competition, and he's recently announced as one of the 32 professional players taking part in the Pro Series, it's a great opportunity for him to sort of get back on the wagon and really start taking 8-ball seriously again, because as we see when he plays, such a top player.
Yeah, he's won so many titles. He's been right to the top of the game, and won an awful lot of professional titles. And I guess when you've been around the game for a long time and at the top of the game for a long time, sometimes your focus and passion for the game can go. But I think with Ultimate Pool and what they're doing and they're bringing to the game right now, I think it really has given him a new lease of life. Not just him as well. I think quite a few players are sort of following with that, and it's great to see him back out there and showcasing what he can do.
It's for 2-1. Punches it home. Wouldn't have had to worry about that yellow even so, but Rob Chilton goes in front for the second time in the match. And then we see that cue. It's a rack cue originally, heavily modified, I might add. The man from Dudley was the 1997 European champion, which is remarkable. We had that that brilliant relationship, didn't we, when we talked about him and Carl Morris, where you had the 2007 European and 1997 European and 1998 World Champion. A bit of a throwback match. Still at the top of the game right now, those two, and great to see Rob in this tournament and looking as good as ever.
Yeah, it's great to see him. You see on there just the sheer quantity of titles he won, and that's just the highlights. So many, local or regional competitions. In fact, he played in a local competition fairly recently, beating Neil Raybone in the final a couple of weeks ago.
Foul. Ball in hand behind the break line. Time running.
He's throwing the kitchen sink at that break. Doesn't break with that cue, mind. Don't think it survived 5, but yeah, threw everything at it, but threw the cue ball down the middle hole, and this is now a chance for Phil to respond. It's a fiddly little lie, just looking at the bottom left of the table, but as he makes his decision, he's got a decent chance at it. It will be yellow's chosen.
Extension call.
It looks awkward because of the position of that 8, but if he can play yellow onto the gap of the yellow and the 8-ball at the bottom there and make the plant, it looks like it'd be going into the jaw, but I think he could just about make it. Then it's actually going to open up fairly comfortably for him. That shot looks like it's on. He's just going to come around and have a look. If not, he's got other options. He could pop one to the bottom right and come across the table and go into the 8-ball that way. Danger would be the 8-ball could stay in the way of the other yellow in that corner. But it looks like it will be that first option.
Yeah, this is the key really to unlocking the frame, this plan.
I suppose the yellow could possibly go jaw and then off the yellow into the pocket if it doesn't quite go the way I first suggested, but options both ways. Well, he has gone for the jaw and off the yellow, but all he's managed to do is knock the yellow even more safe and more awkward.
Big problem now. Big problem now.
The way he played that, to me, it's almost like because he played at such a delicate pace. I wonder if he was just trying to drop that in and it felt that he could still get to the potting angle of the one past the 8-ball.
It did seem a strange shot, didn't it?
I thought if you're going to play the shot he did, it didn't need to be played with much pace, but enough just to move the 8-ball away.
He's still hunting here.
He is. He's going to look to play the plant now. So, sorry, to get the cue ball going across the table. So yellow to the bottom right, screw the cue ball across the table into the 8-ball. Not guaranteed, even though the 8-ball will finish near the corner pocket, it's actually not guaranteed to finish on it. But he has.
Shot.
Great shot. Brilliant.
It's a lovely little clearance in the end from Phil Harrison.
Frame.
Really well played.
Yeah, when things don't work the way you want it to first time round, you can still keep working through and come up with another option, and he's done that there.
think Phil's all a little bit at sea. He's had a little word with himself there, a little scratch to the head, but he's doing just fine. You do tend to see that when you watch Phil play, don't you? He's his own biggest critic.
Yeah, I think the players that play him a lot will say that if you're sat in your chair looking for a clue from his body language, if you see him stood at the table looking frustrated and shaking his head, you know that he's absolutely perfect and he's going to continue and make the finish, because that's the sort of body language he gives off.
Such a well-respected player around the world. Quite often your favourite pool player's favourite pool player is Phil Harrison. And he's made a ball. He's got a tricky little lie here. Let's have a feeling we're going to see a little bit more of the Phil Harrison heart on the sleeve emotion.
Yeah, these have not landed kindly for him.
Extension call.
That's fantastic. So if he's going reds, then actually the red that's underneath his body right now is the only one that's a real bad problem. The two reds, the one that's right in the middle of the bottom cushion, he could play that as a plant onto the other red, or he could get rid of the other red first and then play that one. So that one's not so much of a problem. Is he eyeing this one up as a 3-ball plant? So playing the red just below the break line into the yellow and red together. If they're set as a plant to the corner, then that would certainly do the job. Just needs to make sure that the red he's playing comes away from that area of the table.
Well, there's your answer. And he was close.
I think this is set to the jaw. He probably just needed to catch it a little bit more full ball on the contact to make it, but then he's got more chance of the yellow staying in the way. But it's not the worst result for him by any stretch, because he's got the pocket nice and truly sewn up, and 4 yellows that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, you do not want to be yellows here, do you?
I think Rob's going to try and get this yellow in and get rid of one of the reds. There we go. Block off the pocket.
Yeah, a bit more even now.
International 8-ball rules, so you can put your opponent's ball in that fashion. As long as you're playing your ball first, you can get your opponents down in that way. And it really does keep these frames moving along and create some really interesting tactical exchanges. It's probably fair to say that when it comes to the international 8-ball rules, then Phil Harrison knows them incredibly well. Won tournaments with this rule set. Rob Chilton has played them before, but not as much.
He's having a good luck here, isn't he? A 3-ball plant, maybe?
Extension call.
The question is it worth it?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
What does he gain? That 8-ball is really going to become a problem ball. He doesn't want
to. He's lining something up.
Well, he's got the 3-ball plant that you mentioned, and it has opened up all the yellows. Now his attention has to turn to that 8-ball. What does he do, and how does he work it out?
That in itself is a good shot, but he's still got so much work to do, because he needs to find a way to move that red or move the 8-ball, one of the two. It's not easy to do either.
Just wonder if the yellow that he's, well, I was going to say the yellow he's nearest to, can he play that off the red into the bottom left-hand corner? And that would open up the pocket for the red. I think there is enough room. And if he was planning on doing that, he wanted to be straighter on this yellow to the bottom right corner now so that he could play on it. So may have to play the one in the open in the middle of the table first to leave himself that better angle. See that little grimace on his face? Tells us that perhaps that was his plan. This time he has the angle he needs. Just drop this in. Yeah, you see where he's pointing his cue, so there is enough room. You can see from the overhead
Looks like
there.
it, yeah.
Just has to make sure that he hits the red firm enough that it comes away from that 8 ball.
Has to think about where this 8 ball's landing. Of course, where the cue ball's landing, because those 2 reds could well be blockers as well as the one that moves.
Yeah, if he can play, yeah, and this camera angle's great because I think he shows that he could play this yellow off the red direct rather than using the jaw off the red, because that will make it come away from the cushion quicker. Excellent.
Oh, shot. Worked that out really, really well. He was a big second favourite in that frame, Rob Chilton. But that was a superb clearance to put himself in front in this one. We're going to take a quick break. You won't miss a ball. Do stay with us. This match continues when we come back. Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Masters last 16 match between Phil Harrison and Rob Chilton. And it is Bobby who leads the way so far.
3 frames to 2.
And he's got the next break as well. Chance to take a 2-frame cushion heading into the final 20 minutes and change of this match. That's a much better break than his last one. And this is a good opportunity as well. This is the sort of break that got him so far up those charts that we were looking at earlier.
Even then, though, looking at that break, I mean, in real time, it looked like a great split, but that cue ball wasn't exactly the perfect contact, fizzing across the left-hand side.
You gotta say something to me. You gotta let me know.
Giving himself a great opportunity, though. Those yellows laid out beautifully for him.
Yellow ball's in play.
Look at the way the reds have all gone up to the top of the table, bar one, just leaving the yellows in the open at the bottom. Just has to be careful around that 8 ball. Pick a nice little route. So many different ways of going about a clearance like this, but it's important that you pick that route, have a way that you want to go about it, a clear path in mind. Can play on the yellow below the 8 ball, the one nearest the pocket, off this one in the middle, and then leave himself the angle just to drift in between the 2 yellows, and he'll have a choice, one to the right centre or one to the corner, and then vice versa after, or whichever order works best from there. It's on the one to the left centre. Just shows how different players hit different ways.
Just needs to be precise with these 3 balls. He's worked the pattern out really nicely. Just needs a precise touch around the finish of this one. It'll be 4-2 before we know it. Playing really well is Rob. He really is playing well. Phil Harrison is going to have to play very, very well to get himself back into this one. It's not that he's playing badly, he's up against a really, really top player who isn't giving him much by way of chances. This is what we've got to come in a fortnight's time. Simon Fitzsimmons, who we saw on those charts earlier, one of the standout performances, statistically at least, of the tournament. He will take on Gav Robinson in his last 16 encounter. And then perhaps a little bit of a surprise tie, but Craig Waddingham and John Chambers more than earned their spots in the last 16 with two of the standout performances of the tournament so far from the pair of them.
Frame 7.
John Chambers
So
winning an
Harrison to
epic.
break.
Craig
Only 4
Waddingham
frames
putting
to
in
2.
one of the most dominant displays we've seen on this table.
Yeah, we were talking about Phil Harrison and his performance to beat Mark Farnsworth to get through to this stage. Well, that was equally as good from Craig. It was brilliant from start to finish in both his games. Almost relentless, very dominant. Gave his opponents nothing to go at.
I think we've just seen a very similar reaction from Phil Harrison that we saw in his last break. This is just bad luck. It just happens. Caught them well. Good cue ball. Lots of movement, lots of action. Not to beat.
Oh, I love that replay.
Extension call.
He's unlucky though. He has hit a good break, very similar to his previous one. Comes up dry.
Red ball's in play.
Another sort of a little bit of fiddly work required from Rob, similar to the last frame, but this is focused around that right centre pocket. Red ball on the cushion is his only real problem ball. Just needs some figuring out. Consider that figured. And up an apology. Too sure what for.
That's worked out really well from there, wasn't it? Everything in the open now.
That one wiped its feet a touch. He's all right though.
Perhaps run a shade too far. I don't think he can drop the one in the right centre and hold on the one to the top right corner, which probably would have been his preferred choice.
That's because he jawed the pot, so he's tried it a little bit thin and just run the white a little bit further than he wanted to.
Has other options though. He could actually pot any of the 4 reds he's on the table from where he's landed, so he can pick a route that he feels comfortable with.
It's not the worst problem in the world to have, is it?
Good time to open up a 3-frame lead. Starting to stretch ahead.
It really would be. Phil's not done an awful lot wrong in this match. Especially since the first couple of frames are out of the way. He's not had the opportunities really since to really catch up to what the Bobby Dazzler is doing.
Just needs to come back to far enough to avoid that yellow that he's just cannon into. Would have been better for him. You could just see the little grimace there. Would have been better for that yellow just to go another 2-3 inches, so he could just play a nice simple stun shot and leave a more comfortable 8-ball. He could even, if he wanted to, screw this back for the 8-ball into the left centre pocket. He's going to play for it in the corner and on it about as nicely as he could have been.
It's for a 3-frame cushion, 13 minutes to go. Never in doubt, Rob Chilton is edging closer to that quarter-final, isn't he?
Yeah, break dish, reverse dish, just to edge himself further in front.
Remind ourselves what has happened in quarter 4. Arfan Dad and Scott Gillespie will be our first last 16 tie. That's coming up in a few weeks. And then in 4 weeks, can announce, if you missed the news on social media in the last week or so, we'll have a bumper edition of the Ultimate Pool Masters in 4 weeks' time precisely. We'll have Group 15 immediately followed by this last 16 draw. So Michael Hill, Sean Chipperfield, Simon Maschini and John Sullivan, they will play in the afternoon. The winner of that will stick around, pop out, grab some dinner and come back and play in the last 16.
Yeah, such a shame that night had to be postponed. But the right thing, I think, by the organisers to make that decision, and yeah, we get a bumper night because of it.
Yeah, going to be a long old day, that one, but I've been looking forward to Group 15 for a long time as it is, and when you've got the last 16 as a dessert, that's not a bad day's worth of pool, is it?
Well, you've been calling, haven't you? Michael Hill versus Sean Shipfield, arguably the match of that first round.
But it is a bit strange going into a last 16 with one little segment of it not even filled in. But it was, as you can imagine, at this time of the tournament, a bit of a logistical nightmare to squeeze it in. Worst possible time to get a COVID cancellation. They've been working really hard, the organisers here, to make sure everyone's happy. And I think that'll mean you're happy at home as well, getting 2 for the price of 1 in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, there'll be more information about start times and everything else from Ultimate Pool in due course. It should be a cracking day, that.
Yeah, let's focus on the here and now, though, because Phil Harrison needs this frame. And this is really the key shot to unlocking it. He needs to just manage this. Yeah, he won't mind that, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think he can just brush off the yellow, make the plant, drift up for the one in the triangle area. A split second from the other camera angle, I thought he might have left himself slightly awkward, but I think this is okay. He may just have to hit this so thick that he's going to go into the red, so that may not be exactly the route I was saying a second ago. No, he's had to control it off the red, and he's controlled it well. But it does mean that he needs a nice angle on the yellow in the triangle area just to come back down for that 8 ball at the bottom. So this next positional shot still needs to be played precisely. Straight's not great, and just off straight the wrong way isn't great either. It's not the best angle. He's got just enough to come off the side cushion.
15-second shot clock.
And he's held it beautifully in the end. You just heard it there as well. We move into the 15-second shot clock window. It's 5-3. Rob Chilton remains 2 frames from home. Phil Harrison remains 2 frames away from Rob Chilton. This is in the balance. That was a real swing frame, or potential to be a swing frame. And it could have taken the match away from Phil Harrison, but Rob Chilton wasn't afforded such an opportunity, and the farmer is back in with a shout.
That was great pressure pull there from Phil. Lost 3 straight frames to that point, 2 of them on the trot from the break without getting a shot. And when he's presented with an opportunity, he was able to calmly work it out and take it out. And so often say that it's the ability of these players to take a 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 frame run against them and just know that the next opportunity is the important one that they get, and that's what he's done. And he immediately gives himself another one.
No, he's good. As soon as I saw that cue ball tracking down to the right bottom corner, I was nervous for him, but he's fine. He's finally rewarded with a break and a split that he's deserved. 15-second shot clock, though. It's the first time we've really seen Phil exposed to it. He was so destructive in his win over Mark Farnsworth. He didn't really see much of it, but he's got to pretty much play what he sees.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We talked about his. We would have preferred that not to go in. I was going to say, there's no doubt that he's not as comfortable with the shot clock as other players. So when we go down to 15 seconds, you feel like he's under it even more. And we always think as well, going into this portion of the match, if you're the player that's behind and chasing it, it just adds to the problems. And
especially when the player chasing, as you can see, Phil is not comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never comfortable. That's the thing with Phil. Like, even on a minute shot clock, he'll still faff and harry and worry. He's never quite comfortable out there. But when he's not allowed to sort of go through his processes, it puts him under a little bit, and just has to trust his game. It's so good. And he's done really well here. This needed a little bit of working out this pattern. That just opens it up, and this will take him one away Good visit to the table this has been from Phil Harrison. Super, super clearance that. And that might just settle him down. To know that he can do a finish like that on a 15-second shot clock.
Yeah, and it wasn't, for me, it's not just the fact that he's taken out that finish very, very quickly. It's the fact that he was able to work it out. A couple of little decisions he had to make at the back end there where he didn't land exactly where he wanted to, and he just slightly changed his mind of how to get onto his last ball. But he was able to take the, it sounds strange, but to take the time or be comfortable enough that he had time to have a quick look at it and then still get down and play the shot. So good signs there for Phil, and what a response to going 3 behind, back-to-back finishes from the break for him. And this is very much match on.
Spectators in, which is good to see.
Rob Chilton to break.
A really good match this.
4.
Rob Chilton would love a ball. It's going to be dry. Phil Harrison with a chance to square it with less than 8 minutes remaining. This one is going to go down to the wire, you sense.
Yeah, what a split here from Rob. Every right to be annoyed. This is a fantastic split.
Oh, it's a sickener, isn't it? It really is. Given the circumstances, I think as a player you can, just a run of the ball sometimes it happens, but to have this break happen now is a really bitter pill.
Yeah, especially when everything was going your way. You've just made, break dish, then reverse dish to go those 3 frames in front. You're thinking, okay, one more chance and, really break the back of the match. But it's gone the other way, and in a minute or two's time, this could well be all square. Lovely little first shot from Phil, seeing the finish all the way through to the 8-ball. Just nudged the 8-ball an extra few inches off the cushion with control, just to make the whole of this finish really, really comfortable for him. That red on the left-hand side, though, that still could give him a little bit of a headache if he doesn't land nicely on it. Not the perfect angle on it, but I think if he just drops it in, the cue ball's not going to go too far away. Dead weight. Yeah, nicely done.
6.5 to go. Phil Harrison gets his skates on. Does have an extension, but he's not prepared to use it right now. Hasn't needed to. He's fine with a 15-second shot clock. This to square it with 6 minutes to go. We're in for a good finish here, ladies and gents.
That tells you everything you need to know about Phil Harrison, doesn't it? 3 frames behind, clock getting away from him. Reverse dish, break dish, reverse dish. Thanks very much. We're all square. And he's breaking off again next as well. Momentum fully on his side.
Rob with a shake of the head. He's done absolutely nothing wrong in the last 3 frames. Played really well. But this is now in Phil Harrison's hands to a point.
Frame 11. Phil Harrison to break. 5 frames.
When you're in Rob's position, though, you just have to believe, sit there and wait and take your next opportunity, which is exactly what Phil Harrison did.
Still a long way to go in this match.
Exactly.
Minds. 6 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but on a 15-second shot clock, it can be. It can also fly through. Phil got a touch there, careered into the jaw, got away with one. And I think these have come out nice. Imagine he'll be looking at reds just for the location like yellow. Ooh, Phil furious.
Yeah, just when everything's going his way, he suddenly misses a pot. Okay, it wasn't an absolute dolly, but it was one we fully expected him to make. Really showing his frustration out there as well.
Oh, he's seething. He's absolutely seething with himself.
Massive visit to the table here for Rob Chilton. It's not just the fact he's got his first opportunity for 4 frames. It's more the fact that this is one you can see will really hurt Phil Harrison if he can find this finish.
Red ball's in play.
Could play a 3-ball plant at the bottom of the table. I don't think he needs to, but I think they are set fairly straight for him. He's just having a look at it now.
And for all the ones for Phil to miss as well, with it being that first red, so that no colours were assigned, it enabled Rob to come in, take on the easier colour set.
Yeah, if we'd already had colours assigned and Rob was yellows, it'd be a much trickier finish for him. No doubt about it. A 3-ball plant, now a 2-ball plant.
Got about those really well.
Would have liked the red just to stay half an inch further away from the jaw than that, just to make control up to the one at the top of the table easier. He may not be able to get that close at the top now. Yeah, he couldn't.
Just drops in.
Accepted bad position. And again, he may not be able to get perfectly on this 8-ball. May just have to try and get the cue ball to the middle of that break line. Needs a bounce. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Yeah, he'll take that, but this is now a pressure pot. 3.5 minutes left of this match. This to go 1 from home for Rob Chilton. Oh, and Phil Harrison has the door opened for him. That could be a massive moment.
Yeah, and Rob
Doesn't have one.
You haven't got one.
Got to play it.
Oh, wow. I was about to say that could really hurt Rob, but he's been let off the hook. That's a very
Foul.
poor error
Ball in
from
hand.
Phil Harrison.
Time running.
Thought he had an extension when he didn't, and ended up playing a shot with a second left. And yeah. And now Rob Chilton is using his full 15 seconds to pot this 8-ball.
Yeah, as you would.
Frame.
Oh, what a let-off for Rob Chilton. What a let-off. Couldn't hold it together on the black. And Phil Harrison thought he had an extension. He did not. That is displayed in the arena for the players to see. Not necessarily one for the referee to call out. They do get that visual cue. It's a mental error from Phil Harrison. It is one that could cost him very, very dear. Rob Chilton is on the hill and has the next break.
Frame 12.
Phil Harrison might have
Rob
played his
Chilton
last
to
shot in
break.
the Masters.
Leading 6 frames to 5.
Desperate for a ball, gets one. Cue ball stays up 2. Rob Chilton has a wonderful chance as Phil Harrison gets comfortable. He's not expecting to come back now. Rob Chilton has 2.5 minutes to clear these. Secure his place against Jordan Shepard
Extension
in the
call.
quarterfinal tonight.
His best break of the night. No doubt
Yellow
about
balls
it.
in play.
Loved his reaction, though. He was almost, before a ball had gone down, instantly hit it. He was frustrated that he hadn't made a ball, but he did make a couple in the end. He won't get a better chance than this to win the match.
No.
These are laid out perfectly for him.
The shot clock pressure in this final 10 minutes has just added a whole different dynamic, hasn't it, to this match. Rob in general has coped with it pretty well.
He looks calmer with it, doesn't he? With
Yeah,
Phil, even when Phil made that really good clearance, you know, quick clearance with the first 15, when the 15 seconds first came in, you still felt like he was rushing his shots. You know, we wanted to walk around the table, and then he was getting down with very little time left on the clock.
Yeah, Rob may well just have a really good poker face. Certainly appears to be coping with it better. Oh, as I say that, Phil almost sprints out of his chair.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say that. Look how quickly Phil had already put his cue away. He'd put it back, he'd put his chalk down, he was ready to shake hands, and all of a sudden he's standing up, ready to get to the table.
Rob takes the pocket. Needs the white to stay up, it does. Phil Harrison with less than a minute to save his skin.
And he has a problem. This yellow at the bottom right-hand corner doesn't have enough time really to play the tactical shot, which is red onto yellow, take the pocket away and play the snooker at the same time. So needs to be aggressive. is aggressive.
What a shot. What a shot. Are we going to a 6-red shootout? Phil Harrison has time, and they're all there. 20 seconds for 3 balls. Just about came back far enough. 10 seconds on the watch. This for a 6-red shootout, all on this black ball. Punches it in, 2 seconds left. What a finish by Phil Harrison. It's not quite done yet. There are still, I think, 1, maybe 2 seconds left on the match clock. There is a chance for a golden break to go and win the match outright. But my goodness me, under those circumstances, the cojones on Phil Harrison.
That shot along the top cushion where he played the cannon and the skill shot at the same time was absolutely magnificent. It wasn't an easy pot by any stretch. Played it with the pace to open it all up. Absolutely brilliant with the time pressure on him and the pressure of the match. That was one of the best shots we've seen in the tournament so far.
100%.
13.
It's Phil's break, I believe.
Phil Harrison to break.
Players are getting a little bit confused out there, but it is Phil's break.
So, golden break, sent him into the quarterfinal. Don't do a golden duck, Phil, for whatever you do.
So he's changing to the cut break. So second ball down, second red down there on the right-hand side. More chance of getting the 8-ball in motion.
8-ball is moving. It's not going towards a pocket. That will do it. We're going to a 6-red shootout, ladies and gents. Oh, what a match that was. That was such a good match. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. That swung to and fro. You never really knew who was going to take it. One thing I will say, though, is you've got to give so much credit, I think, to Phil Harrison, because Rob Chilton didn't do an awful lot wrong, particularly in the moment where he was 3 frames up and seemingly cruising. Phil gets himself 1 back into the match, and then we see a little bit of a mistake from Rob. He misses that 8-ball, a little bit jittery perhaps, and then loses position on his frame to win the match.
I think
crucial error.
That's the one that's going to hurt him the most. The match was there for him. That was a poor positional shot that he played. I know he's under time pressure, but he had plenty of room to land on the ball there to complete what would have been a fairly routine finish, other than the pressure of the situation for a player of Rob's ability. So he's going to be incredibly frustrated that he's having to go through this 6-red finish, 6-red shootout. Sorry.
Yeah, you just see the stats there. Are really, the breaks in particular were really interesting for Phil Harrison, because he had, what was it, I think three dry, 1 fouled, 3 made. It didn't quite go for him in many ways, and imagine if that had gone for him a little bit. Rob might have had it more difficult, but you've got to give so much credit to Rob Chilton at the same time. Did so little wrong within the match. It felt like Phil was struggling, and then it was the comeback story, wasn't it? He was able to bring it back, wrestle back control.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can say what you like about the 6-red shootout. I don't. It's tough to call a winner in the previous match. It felt tough that one of them had to lose from how well they played.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to the 6-red shootout, you can see both players here just having a chat with the referee, just making sure they're comfortable with the rules and everything that they need to do in this situation. It is who can pot the 6 reds the quickest will go through, but something I'm pretty sure neither player has really had to experience, certainly not in a competitive environment. So it's going to be fascinating to see which player can adapt to this new feature the best, really.
Well, we've been talking about, haven't we, that Rob's been, he's installed a table at home. He's been much more practice than he usually has, and I just wonder if he's had a little go. Something tells me he might have done. I think he's first. I think he's won the battle to go first, which is an advantage. It is they do lag for that.
The key is, from what we've seen so far, you want to be playing a lot of stop shots. You need the cue ball to stop moving, and you can, as long as the cue ball and the ball you're playing is stopped, you can play the next ball. So a lot of stop shots is perfect. This is just a lovely little layout for him.
Yeah, he'll take this.
Oh, I thought he could play the one along the bottom cushion there, because now he can't get on the one on the bottom cushion, so that may have been a mistake for him.
Full run round the table, cost him a couple of seconds. That's a brilliant pot.
If it goes in, it's going to be a great time.
Needs another go at it. That hasn't been a kind bounce. This may cost him quite a bit. Slap of the table. He can't give up.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that Phil's going to beat this time.
Oh, Rob Chilton is... I'm not too sure what the rule is. I think he's actually just going to concede. So I'm not too sure what the ruling is here.
Well, he's conceded the match, which is incredible, really, because there's no guarantee that if he makes that ball and goes 45 seconds, say, then there's no guarantee that Phil beats that. There's pressure out there. You could see how quickly what looked like it might be a mid-20s time there for Rob turned into a nightmare for him. So it's no guarantee that it would have been any better for Phil. So a slight surprise for Rob to hand the match over like that.
But you can just tell the frustration in him. It's a tough, tough score out there. Really tough defeat for Rob to take. But Phil Harrison marches on to tonight's final and into the quarter-final of the tournament against Jordan Shepard. Oh, cannot wait for that one. That's next. Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Masters. My goodness me, we've seen some drama in this competition. That might have been the most dramatic match of the lot. Rob Chilton out, Phil Harrison through by the skin of his teeth. He's clawed his way through to the quarterfinal tonight against Jordan Shepard. An incredible match in so many different ways. Phil Harrison having to come back first from 3 frames down with about 12 minutes to go, and then with 50 seconds on the watch, he gets an opening and he pulls off an incredible clearance, Simon.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think when we look at that match, we'll look at those couple of mistakes from both players towards the end there that were probably quite crucial, and it looked like Phil was going to go ahead and then he misses, and then Rob goes ahead and gives himself an opportunity to win the match, but he makes the mistake. But actually I'd rather look at the positives there, because I think both players throughout the majority of that match played some really high quality pool. There was lots of great finishes from the break, and that clearance at the end there from Phil was absolutely top draw with no time left on the clock, having to really run around the table, something we know he's not comfortable with, to pull out that pot along that top cushion with the skill shot and then be calm enough to make the clearance afterwards was absolutely fantastic. And twice he had to come back in that match from what looked like too far behind, and he was able to do so. So brilliant stuff from Phil.
And talk to me a little bit, we'll hear from Phil in a moment, by the way, but talk to me a little bit about this 6-red shootout, because it's the strangest one we've ever seen. We've seen some strange ones, but Rob eventually conceding after 3 straight misses on the red, and he didn't land nice. He was into the 40 seconds. You got to feel for a bit for Rob, because he was on for a really, really good time in the early 20s with just 1 ball left, but it just shows how almost volatile that method of winning a game is, because it can all go so wrong so quickly.
Yeah, I think he made a poor choice, which is easy to say from the commentary box, in the way the clearance route he took. He could have taken the one along the bottom cushion, I think 4th ball, and then had 2 more left. And if it doesn't drop in, he's going to be perfect on it in a couple of shots' time, and he would have guaranteed a sub-30 if he'd gone that way. But once he went the way he did, if he makes the one along the bottom cushion, he's going to be mid-late 20s. But even if he doesn't make it, he should rattle it enough just to be able to knock it in, set a 30-second time, which would have been really challenging, I think, for Phil. I think that would have been, you know, I would say both players were pretty even matched at around 30 seconds. Anything sub 30 would have been good. But once he missed that ball and it came across the bottom cushion too much, his head went there and he just started firing it round. And even if he was calm enough to try and drop it in the middle pocket, he would have set 35 to 40 seconds. He didn't. He slashed at it, and then I think he realised that was going to be way too long. So really frustrating end for Rob, but he should be proud of the way he played. But just that mistake at the end, snookering himself on his last ball when the match was his to be won, will really hurt him.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, we will see Rob soon. He's in the Ultimate Pool Pro Series, and we're looking forward to bringing that to you on your screens on Free Sports. A couple of weekends' time, that is. Not too far away. That one's come around quick, hasn't it? But we'll see Rob then. Looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we are going to hear from the man who has sent him packing. Phil Harrison is tonight's quarter-finalist. I caught up with him in the break. Yeah, joined very quickly by Phil Harrison. Phil, you've just come off the table after a dramatic ending, to say the least, to that match. What are your emotions right now?
I'm exhausted, to be honest. Been running around the table trying to keep up with him, because he just kept, to be fair to Rob, he's played quite a nice game, but you know, we both made crucial mistakes. I've missed a red down the rail, I don't know which frame it was, and then he made a mistake stunning behind the black when he didn't need to. He just needed to roll the ball in and pop the other one in. It's game over. But yeah, crazy match, and nice to get a good finish at the end to make it 6-all and that, and yeah.
How pleased are you with your powers of recovery? Because you won 3 frames on the trot to square it up, and then that final finish in the last 50 seconds was clutch from you.
Yeah, I mean, I could put them balls there again. I'd never get them again. But yeah,
Phil,
they're winning.
You've got 1 match left to come tonight up against Jordan Shepard. Excited for it now?
Oh yeah, I mean, he played great against Chris, didn't he? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I've had some good matches with Jordan, so yeah, I'm sure this one will be another one.
Can't wait for it. Best luck, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely to hear from Phil there. He can be a little bit flustered at the best of times, especially out there on the table, but he genuinely was almost speechless in that interview. It was such a crazy, hectic end to the match. And he's now got to go out there, of course, and do it all over again against someone like Jordan Shepard, as we're about to see these two about to get going soon. We're seeing the lag here as to who's going to break first. And Simon, I guess if you're Phil Harrison, a big challenge here will be just to be able to just get your heart rate back down and just settle yourself back down again, because we've seen this a few times in this competition where you've had those dramatic first games to then just level off into the second. It's a difficult bridge to overcome, isn't it?
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. That, you know, the player that wins that second match, how easy is it to get yourself calm back down and restart from 0-0 again? And it is difficult. And I think especially for Phil, with the way that match finished, he was chasing so hard through that match, and you know, he was really working hard in the last 10 minutes of the match, and then obviously having to go through that dramatic 6-red shootout. It's going to be difficult if he gets off to a slow start. I think if he can get off to a decent start, take his first opportunity or two, then he'll just be into this match.
How are you reckoning of that first chance? Phil had the first break, caught them beautifully. He's not been rewarded with a kind split here at all. This looks right off the rip fiddly at best.
Yeah, I think we see the shoulders slump in a second, or we're not going to stay with the replay long enough. When you see the final lay of the balls, I think is from what he thought might be a good opportunity, all of a sudden looks horrible.
Well, Reds are definitely the ball, aren't they? Because they've got the most easy problem to solve. Just wonder how in the way those 4 are over the middle pocket. It's difficult to tell from this camera angle.
For me,
if you can manufacture something.
Yeah, for me, I don't mind this. If he can go into the 8-ball now and he can stay on one of the reds into the middle, then it's okay. But if he's not on one of those reds in the middle, then it becomes a problem. Obviously, he is on the one to the bottom right-hand corner, but you need an angle to be able to either develop if one of those don't go. I think there's a plant in there. There's possibly the two together are just going to go in off the other one. Well, he's played for one in the top cushion, top corner pocket, and that's well controlled.
Yeah, that's clever.
Because once he gets this one out the way, it opens up the next one, and it will just unravel now one by one, rather than having to risk any cannons or any sort of plant or anything like that. So that cannon into the 8-ball was actually fantastic, because he left himself the perfect angle on that red to the corner.
All of a sudden, this doesn't look too bad.
No, it's okay, but the 8-ball's still a problem ball. It's not easy to land nicely. Where the cue ball is now is probably as nice as he could hope to land. If he tried to land straighter on it, then he risks going behind a yellow. I'm not happy with the angle he's left himself. You see him throw his head straight back. He's on this red to the top corner pocket, but the cue ball is not going on the angle he needs. He's going to leave him. If he plays it plain ball, it looks like he'd leave himself just a shade low on the red into the right centre pocket, which is not ideal for where that 8-ball is.
Yep.
Well, so I think that's why he's tried to move the yellow, just to allow, if he catches the yellow full ball, he can drop the red in, and then he's still got a shot at the 8-ball. But he's just made it, well, just almost impossible for himself, because not only has he snooked himself on his last ball, but he's also knocked the 8-ball really safe.
Foul.
Tough frame to lose, isn't it? There you see how it ended up. He's a little unlucky, actually, to end up where he was. That's really tough.
Yeah, if he catches that yellow full ball, or even just a shade thicker, then he actually probably lands fine.
fouling in the way that he did adds insult to injury as well, because Jordan now able to use his first shot to develop his difficult balls, and this should be a formality.
Feels like more of the same so far for Jordan Shepard. That's how his first match went. He wasn't getting the rub on the breaks. It was going to Chris Melling, and Chris Melling was getting first chances and not taking them, and Jordan was coming to the table and doing what he should, and mopping up or playing a safety and then mopping up.
We spoke to him after the match, didn't we, very briefly, just in the ad break, and he was quite hard on himself. Didn't feel like he'd played that well, but actually
extension call
made a good point to him that said you weren't really given a chance to play that well. You just had to do what you had to do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something in the fact when you've got these great players, you know, and they're used to making a lot of finishes from the break. If you don't make that many in a match, you feel like you haven't played that well. But if you've done all you can and you've won the frames you meant to win, even if it's, you know, mopping up after your opponent makes a mistake, then that still means you're playing very, very well.
Picks up where he left off against Chris Melling. Jordan Shepard 1-0 up against Phil Harrison. Here's Sheppy, the Welsh Wizards, 5-time shootout champion. Really cannot overstate that record enough. There were 6 shootout events plus the grand final. He won 5 of them and got to the final of the grand final, only to be beaten by 1 second by Simon Fitzsimmons. To have that sort of level of dominance over a format and over a tournament, over a series like that, is almost unprecedented.
Especially in a format as volatile as a shootout, where it really is very fast-paced and very short and sharp, and he really he dominated the event. A lot going into the event, everyone said how it was a perfect format for him, but it's one thing saying it, is another thing dominating it in the way that he did. Wasn't happy with his break in the first match. Felt he wasn't quite breaking as well as he'd like. Said he's got a new break cue. Maybe it's just taking a little bit of time, but no doubt this was a much better break, but he has missed his first ball.
Yeah, slight surprise, especially after he's already got himself into the match, really, with that polish up off the first frame. Just feel like this is a really, really important frame now for Phil Harrison.
Yeah, it's early in the match, but you do get that sense from it. And that was a lovely little shot from Phil, just going through those yellows. If he gets a little cannon on them, it could come a bit awkward. So I'm pretty sure he's playing the gap in the way that he did. And yes, the 2 yellows on the right-hand side there are just slightly awkward. One of them will drop into the centre pocket comfortably enough, but then you've got the one just next to it, which I believe he was hoping to land a little bit better on the one to the right centre so that he could just drift past it to take it to the top left corner. Not happy that he's finished a shade short. And this time he's gone a shade too far.
Just feel this frame's so important, just in sort of keeping Phil's momentum going from that dramatic match against Rob Chilton. Just feel if he loses maybe the first couple of frames, he makes a couple of mistakes, just maybe takes him too far out of the game, gives himself too much to do. If he can just keep the adrenaline going and almost ride the crest of the wave, it'll serve him pretty well in this match.
Yeah, I agree. This time he lands with the perfect angle to drift onto the hardest ball on the layout for these yellows.
Shake of the head from Sheppy. He knows this is a frame that got away from him, but it's 1 each.
Frame.
Just what Phil wanted as well. Having made that mistake in the previous frame, immediately gets an opportunity to punish a Jordan Shepard mistake.
Well, there is Phil Harrison, the farmer, down in Cambridgeshire. 2009 world champion, as well as a 3-time world master as well. And those are his sort of his big headline titles, but what that doesn't cover is the myriad tournaments down the years that he's won. He's probably just that sort of rung below the likes of Michael Hill and maybe Chris Melling as well. That's a top echelon. But he's knocking on that door, isn't he, in terms of the status of himself in the game? He's considered among the very, very best.
Oh, yeah, you may be right. Maybe that the fact, you know, Michael's got 6 world titles. He's a little bit unlucky to be kicked in off this time. And when you look at Phil, you know, Phil's talked about as being one of the best players in the world right now. But he, you know, he has that 1 world title to his name, and his list of titles is incredible.
See how much height that cue ball gained there.
Extension call.
Get another one to add to the series of Phil Harrison break reactions.
Yeah, I think Free Sports are going to have to get some more cameras in. We'll get one just focused on Phil for his reactions on every single shot, because he lets us know what he's thinking at all times. Yeah,
he's like that sort of cliche of like a football manager kicking every ball. He really feels every single moment out there, doesn't he?
Yeah, and not just when he's at the table, when his opponent's at the table as well. He's ready to jump up and pounce very, very quickly. Invested in every shot they play. Lovely little cannon there from Jordan just to open up this frame. This won't take very long at all.
Yeah, flying around the table. No time at all. Another sweep up jab. Another reverse dish. Did this so well in his first round match against Clint Ianson. Oh, wasn't expecting that.
Well, we've seen the odd mistake tonight from the players on show, but that's one I really wasn't expecting. Massive, massive surprise to see Jordan miss a ball like that.
Such a strange one.
It wasn't even that hampered queuing either. It was, everything was fairly comfortable for him. Pretty sure Phil would have expected him to pot it.
Yeah, big surprise.
Oh, completely.
Oh, speaking of big surprises.
Oh, he's just completely quit on the shot. He's absolutely just decelerated, completely quit on it. That's incredible to see a former world champion play a shot like that.
Couldn't quite get it thin enough. You can see how thin Jordan Shepard had to play that, because I think that was just about going on the potting line.
Yeah, he's probably tried to hit it as thin as possible, and actually probably, yeah, just a shade on the thin side, and he probably can't believe he could overcut that by so much.
Phil Harrison with a let off. Oh, he threw his arms up in the air again. He almost let that chance go by the wayside.
Well, this frame is going to carry quite a bit of weight, isn't it? When we look back at this match, both players will feel like they should have won it on multiple occasions.
I think it's fair to say both players are a touch twitchy out there at the moment in this quarter-final. Two staggering misses, one from each, but in the end it's going to be Phil Harrison who's going to take the spoils. Was never missing that one.
Yeah.
2-1.
Frame.
Crazy frame. 8-ball ball.
Yeah, incredible to see the mistakes from both those players there. That first one from Jordan caught me very off guard. I just expected him to knock it in calmly, but yeah, that one from Phil will really surprise him. But the fact that he hasn't won the frame means he won't need to worry about it at all.
A reminder of how these two men got here. Jordan Shepard has run a bit of a gauntlet. Clint Ianson, Jez Graham, Chris Melling to make his way through to this quarter-final. Phil Harrison getting by
Frame number
Greg
4.
Batten, who played very well,
Jordan
and Mark
Shepard to break.
Farnsworth,
Trailing 2 frames to 1.
and then Rob Chilton. It's Jordan on the break. He's hit that beautifully. Oh, golden break! Jordan Shepard squares things up. I don't think he's even noticed himself. Well, if you're going to get yourself back into the match, that's a pretty handy way to do it.
Yeah, if you have a frame where you miss a couple of 8 balls back to back.
That's a very cheeky smile.
That is a nice way to soften the blow. Oh dear. And it's still the shaking head. I guarantee he's still shaking his head about the missed 8 balls.
Straight in.
Yeah, and it's very rare you see one go straight in like that off the front ball break, but he did hit it particularly well.
Oh, over to you, Phil. We're 2 apiece again. Shade over 30 minutes still to play. This match is going to go all the way to the scoreboard, I think. Whereas Phil flies it off the table this time. He really is throwing everything into it. This will look great in slow motion. Have a watch of this. 4.
Extension called.
I really could watch Phil
It's fantastic.
all
isn't
day.
it?
Love him.
Now, international 8 ball rules are fairly new for us here on Free Sports and for myself, and I believe when the cue ball gets jumped off the table, you can actually place it anywhere you want on the table. It doesn't have to be behind the line. Jordan is still choosing to have it behind the line.
Yellow balls in play.
That the 4th golden break of the tournament. Shout out to the Ultimate Pool Stats monkeys here who are keeping their eyes and ears and fingers across all the different machinations of this tournament.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say that I'm surprised we haven't seen more.
It's been a lot of matches.
There's been a lot of matches and a lot of frames, and just the 4 so far. Not happy with the position this time, just comes up a fraction short.
Yeah, it's a tough pot now. It really is. Played it really well. Still got a little bit of work to do because this next one's thin too. Getting onto the final yellow might be tough to hold for.
Oh, he wanted the fuller contact than that, so he could stay on the yellow at the bottom. Even if he catches it half ball the other way, he's much better off. He's finished nowhere now.
Yeah.
He was giving some thought to using the side cushion and trying to pot it along the bottom rail, but choosing not to do that.
Not a foul, and honestly, not the worst result in the world. Cue ball's ended up quite kind. Phil does have a fairly simple pot into the middle pocket, but at least the yellow's just causing him a little bit of a headache, making him earn it a little bit.
Yeah, and the red on the right-hand side by that centre pocket, not in a nice position. Hasn't helped things too much, but it hasn't made it that much worse. Can still pot that red to the top left-hand corner. Can't get through to it to the top right.
Yeah, the more I look at that red on the side rail, that's a bigger and bigger problem, isn't it?
Yeah, he could play safe using off that ball if he wanted to. Depends if he wants to
Extension called.
let Jordan back to the table or whether he fancies the clearance. But if you play safe, then the safety has to be played off that ball that's awkward.
Yeah,
no point
just
playing
play it down
safe.
to the bottom of the table, because the yellow's safe.
Yeah, exactly. There's just no point playing a safety unless you're developing your bad ball. So that's a good shot. He's a little bit fortunate to get the contact on the 8 ball, which is why he holds up his hand, because I believe if the cue ball comes across to the right-hand side, the yellow would cut to the top left. As tough a pot as that would have been from the bottom right-hand corner of the table, it would have been a shot on for Jordan, and he wouldn't be snookered, of course.
Tough break.
Foul. Ball in hand. Time running.
This should seal the frame really for Phil.
Yeah. Not only does he foul, he also puts a yellow on the side cushion, just gets out the way, and Phil can now put the cue ball wherever he wants. I'm a little bit surprised Phil's not putting the cue ball on the red that's, I would say, is the hardest red on the table, which is the one nearest the bottom right-hand corner. But I guess the argument against doing that is it's the perfect ball for your last ball onto the 8 ball. You only need one decent positional shot to anywhere near the right centre pocket, and you'd be nicely on it. Phil just trying to make sure that he leaves himself a good angle on his second last ball, just because he knows that he wants to land nicely on the one on the rail. And that looks fine, just to be able to drift one cushion on and off the cushion onto the line would be nice. And that's absolutely perfectly played. Could not pick it up and put it on with his hand any better than that.
Talked about that sort of transition, didn't we, between match 1 and match 2 tonight. Just feel like Phil's managed to ride it out, hasn't he? He's now gone from that difficult transition, so now he's very much in this game. It's 3-2. Phil Harrison leads the way. Do stay with us. This final will conclude. You won't miss a ball when we come back. Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Masters. This is our first quarter-final. The Welsh Wizard, Jordan Shepard, versus the Farmer, Phil Harrison. 3-2, Phil leads, Jordan with the break. Oh, I do not believe that.
Frame.
Wow.
A second golden break. He had the cheek, Simon, to bemoan how his break was going earlier. I don't think he's going to now.
Big smile on his face this time. 2 on the trot. Incredible.
That is remarkable. Absolutely amazing. A sickener for Phil Harrison, by the way. That was the 4th, that was the 5th of the competition. There'd only been 3 before tonight, and he's just gone and done 2 back to back. Phil Harrison must be feeling like he's in a weird dream tonight with how these matches are going.
There's no doubt his head is absolutely going to be spinning. He's worked hard to get himself in front a couple of times, and both times he's had one shot taken to take it away from him. Can he get one for his own now? No. But he's a great break. That's probably his best break of the night. What a response.
Doing it the proper way.
Doing it the proper way. This is as good as you can hit a break. Watch this cue ball straight up the middle of the table and just absolutely demolishes the pack. Look at that. That's fantastic.
Look at, there's only, I think there's 2 balls below the middle pocket after the break, and the other one that's there hit the top cushion and rolled back down. That's astonishing cue power.
Looks like he's eyeing up the reds, and the big problem with reds, and it's only the red at the bottom is fine. It goes to both bottom corner pockets, but you're going to be traveling from one of the ones at the top all the way down to the bottom, and we see that so often that shot can catch you out. So easy to land a little bit short or go a little bit too far and just not get it quite right. Anytime you are making the cue ball move that distance, it can go wrong. And he's not happy with the angle he's left on this one at the top of the table.
No.
I think he's worried that he's going to be catching the yellow when he goes on and off this top cushion. And And just leave himself awkward angle on his ball to transition down the bottom. Which is why he's played into the red, and he's controlled that beautifully. A lovely little cannon. Tap of the knee from Jordan Shepard. Appreciating the shot, but this is key. Just avoiding those yellows and all about the pace control. Not perfect. Not perfect at all, but he has got a shot. His problem here is the cue ball is just going to be going a little bit too far up the table if he plays this sort of pocket weight. I don't know if he can hold or whether he has to go in and out the top half of the table, or whether he can target a yellow and play a cannon. He's played the dead weight shot and he's going to miss it on the thick side. He did play the cannon on the yellow, so the perfect break from Phil Harrison does not lead to a frame. It's amazing, even with great players like Phil Harrison, to see that shot goes wrong so often. That transition from the top end of the table to the bottom.
It just require. I know the ball's only travelling what 6-7 feet at most, but it's the most difficult positional shot you can play because of the distance, and you don't have to be out by much at all to be really up against it.
If he goes 2 more rolls on his screw back onto that one at the bottom, then it's a really simple, or comparatively simple shot that he just drops it in, and he doesn't have to worry about that cannon on the yellow. He can drop it in pocket weight, not worry about it at all, just know that he's going to be on the 8 ball. He's missed it thick because he's worried about overhitting the shot. This time it's Jordan that has to worry about his last positional shot. The position onto the 8 ball at the bottom this time for Jordan will be a problem. I believe it only goes to the bottom right. Might squeeze into the bottom left, but it looks awfully tight. And he's going to have to be potting the yellow at the top of the table as his last ball, and he actually doesn't have a particularly good angle to get onto that yellow at the top of the table. Just overhit the shot a fraction, but he's not too bad.
Same problem, isn't it?
Yeah. It wouldn't be so bad if he could go down the bottom or the right-hand side of the table as we look from the main camera angle. But the fact that he has to get across the left-hand side of the table is what makes this just slightly trickier. And he makes the pot. Oh, good cannon.
Yeah, he'll take that. I tell you what, he's got a little bit of the rub of the green tonight. At times, Jordan Shepard.
Frame.
He will not mind that one bit.
He's done pretty well to get across to that side of the table. Yes, the cannon to get it like that is a touch fortunate, because at any fuller and he wouldn't be on anything at all.
Well, this is what we've got coming up for you next week. Oh, what a good lineup this is. Carl Sutton, Sam Bircher is a quality matchup. Carl Sutton was brilliant in getting through. He looked really, really sharp. Sam Bircher navigated a difficult draw. And then Josh Kane and Declan Brennan is a brilliant matchup. 2 really high quality players. Both lefties.
We may say this a lot as we go through the groups, but all 4 of those players had to play some absolutely fantastic pool to make it through their groups. They were pushed and their performances were fantastic. Oh, Jordan Shepard once again gets that 8 ball in motion, this time close to the left centre pocket.
What's going on with these breaks?
He really has got this 8 ball moving. Would have loved to see him throw his arms up in the air in frustration that he didn't make a golden break this time, having made the previous 2. What's going on? I've only made a normal ball.
Yellow ball's in play.
Jordan just changing his mind.
I think what we have seen with a a slightly quicker shot clock, slightly quicker match clock, and that's come out nice. A slightly quicker match clock, slightly quicker shot clock is, I think we're going to see much more games go the scoreboard distance as opposed to, probably I'd say the majority of the matches so far in the tournament going to the clock. Just slightly changes the dynamic of it a little bit. I must say I do prefer it, just on a personal note. Oh, John's way off there, long way off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Actually, I think you're right. We're going to obviously races to 7, not 8, and obviously 30 seconds a shot instead of 45 at the initial part of the match. I agree. It just adds the bit more to the dynamic. And I have to say, you know, it's great to see Ultimate Pool making that decision. You know, they've obviously looking at the format and tweaking it to fit, and they're not afraid to make those decisions. It's great to see.
Seen a couple of just little jumpy shots from Jordan tonight, which is a bit unlike him.
I've been thinking about it, and the only way I can really describe it is that Phil, when he's playing at 30 seconds, and well, let's not talk about the 15, because 15 is, everyone looks like they're rushing at 15, but when Phil's playing at 30 seconds a shot, it just feels like he's rushing a fraction. He still wants to walk around and have a look at a lot of angles. But when you look at someone like Jordan Shepard or Chris Melling, as we saw earlier, playing 30 seconds, it feels like they've got loads of time.
Yep.
But there's no doubt for me, Phil is getting more and more comfortable with every match that he plays with this short shot clock. Pressure on this ball down the rail. Doesn't want to fall 2 frames behind at this stage.
Money. 4 apiece, quarter of an hour left.
Frame.
It's in the balance. It is right in the balance. As we take a look at the quarter 3 draw, this is our 3rd last 16 rounds. We'll see this in a couple of weeks. Cy Fitzsimmons takes on Gav Robinson. Cracking matchup, that one. And Craig Waddingham is back in action after a demolition night, really, where he took apart Ryan Davies and Jake Dillon-Newlove. And John Chambers after that epic against Shane Thompson, who nearly pulled off the comeback of all comebacks. It's a great matchup as well.
That was a brilliant match, wasn't it? Shane found himself a long way behind, fought his way back.
He was 6 frames back, I think.
Yeah, great turnaround from Shane. When there's been a big pressure shot required tonight, not just in this match, but in the previous match as well, Phil has come up with it. Yes, he's made a couple of mistakes here and there, but that pot down the rail, another fantastic pressure shot that he's made.
I mean, you won't see a better handling of pressure than, oh, it's screwed straight in. Didn't catch them nicely.
Ball in hand behind the break line.
I think the Phil Harrison break reaction catalogue's about to get another entry. Doesn't catch these at all well. Watch the cue ball here. Off the top ball, straight off, and he knew. Straight away he knew.
And I think this is probably why he's experimented with this break before and then gone away from it, and now he's decided to come back to it and give it another go. But when he is, you could see the first thing he does on that break is he brings his head right up, and he's certainly, by going for extra power, he's compromising the how precise he can be with that contact. And yes, he can get it right. His previous break was absolutely fantastic, perfect control at the middle, but we have seen a couple of times tonight where the cue ball has gone far too close to those corner pockets, and he has fouled off the break a few times now.
That's quite a cute shot from Jordan. Great tactical shot to take that bottom corner. You love that yellow just to drift up the table a couple of inches more. I don't think that'll drop in from where it is at the moment.
Yeah, one more roll. That would have
been perfect, but he'll still be pretty happy with that, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say one more roll would have been just absolutely ideal. Would have put Phil under all sorts of pressure with not a huge amount to go at all.
Extension called.
You can just tell he's still a little bit jumpy with the extension. And it's, you know, perhaps a little bit understandable. Phil obviously struggles with his hearing, which not a lot of players have to.
Just putting red onto yellow, making another bad ball on the table for yellows and for Jordan. And more of a containing shot than anything else. Jordan just bumping that one out into the middle of the table and back to having just one bad ball. No doubt at this stage, you'd rather be yellows than reds. Jordan's winning this tactical battle because he got to take control after that foul off the break.
Yeah, Jordan's not far away from being able to go for this. So Phil's just got to keep him at bay.
That's worked out perfectly for him. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
He holds his hand up in apology, but I think after 2 golden breaks, you've sort of earned a little bit of the rub of the green, haven't you?
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, I can't. If he's held up his hand, then there's no way that he's played that. But it's the perfect result for him to knock that yellow where he has.
I wonder if he was trying to knock the yellow in.
I think that's probably more likely.
And in the end, he's ended up knocking it safe along his red, so achieved the same sort of result. But I think he was trying to play the yellow into the middle pocket.
He may well try and knock another yellow in now. Can he just knock one of those 2 reds together down, pop the yellow over the pocket and just take the pocket himself? Not sure he'd be leaving much on other than the yellow into the centre pocket, but he would have a pocket.
Match clock, by the way. 11 minutes left. 50 seconds away from going into a 15-second shot clock, and that is a big advantage to me, to Jordan Shepard, who is at home playing at 15 seconds. Phil is not. For all that he is not comfortable playing at 15 seconds, despite everything that he did in his previous match. He'd be the first person to tell you that he was far from comfortable.
Yeah, it may take him some time to get more comfortable with it, but I think with every time he plays it, he will get just that better and better. But a long way to go to be anywhere near where Jordan is in terms of his comfort level. And that goes the same in terms of if this match was to go to the 6-red shootout, again, like Phil's first match did, there's no question you'd give a favourite to, or the edge to Jordan Shepard.
It's strange that in a match like this, with that as its tiebreaker, it's almost like Jordan Shepard starting a frame up.
Yeah, he's like, he gets the draw, doesn't he? It's like it's not guaranteed, but that's how he'll probably view it.
15-second shot clock.
I don't know if he'll even go as far as thinking about it, but
Probably not.
But in terms of how the match plays out, it's almost like going into a league match now you've got better goal difference.
This time Phil really wanted to make the skill shot because the rest of the clearance is on.
Yeah, played that really well. Got that absolutely spot on.
A couple of really clever little tactical shots from Phil to turn this round. Obviously that one that we talked about being fairly fortunate, but he has worked himself into a great opportunity to get a frame ahead. Was annoyed to leave himself on it to the corner rather than the centre, but right in the heart of the pocket.
If he does make it to finals night, Phil Harris, now I have a feeling he's going to turn up in trainers. He's had his fair share running around the table tonight, that's for sure. But with 8.5 minutes to go, he's going to take the lead. 5-4.
Frame.
8 minutes and 26 seconds remaining. And one last reminder for the night, this is what we've got to come in 3 weeks' time. The 4th last 16 pool. And a reminder, if you weren't listening or watching us earlier, Group 15 will be now on that night. We'll have a bumper day of Masters pool for you in a few weeks' time. In the afternoon, we'll see Michael Hill, Sean Chipperfield, and Osama Maskini versus John Sullivan. The winner of both those games will play each other, and the winner of that will stick around, and they will go straight into the last 16 draw that evening.
Yeah, in a tournament that's been going on for a few months, a player in that group has the opportunity to make their entrance into the competition and make it all the way through to the semi-finals in one day. Maybe a bumper day of pool for us.
They'll do all their tournament in 2 weeks if they go all the way.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Which would be remarkable.
No golden break this time for Jordan, but another ball made and another opportunity, but one with time starting to tick away from him. You feel he needs to take. Oh, he's miscued.
Oh, no. Let's have a little watch of this. Did you just catch the cushion on the way through? I think so. Well, he was telling us, wasn't he, that he did have a new tip put on it recently.
Extension called.
Oh, Phil's reactions are fantastic. He forgets about the extension and then reminds himself at the last second. Oh, he's gone in off.
Oh, Phil.
Foul.
That's such a let-off for Jordan Shepard.
Time running.
Because it's still open table.
Yeah.
Still open table. Jordan miscuing on that first red.
Ball's in play.
Phil going off it. In off it, rather. Jordan a little bit unhappy there, but he just has settled himself back down. It's been a weird night if you're Jordan Shepard. He's played Chris Melling and Phil Harrison, and he'll probably tell us, whichever way the result goes after the match is done tonight, that he feels like he's not played well at all tonight. Not had many chances off his own break, not had a chance to build much rhythm. It has been a strange night tonight in plenty of ways. Key shot coming up in a moment. Red into the right centre is a dolly. Needs to leave a good angle on his final red to get onto that black ball. Needs to avoid these yellows too. Played it nicely. Ooh, it wobbled a little bit. Puff of the cheeks from the Welsh wizard. Phil Harrison shares a smile.
But you say it's been a strange night. That's a visit that sums it all up there. The first ball that cue ball in hand, and Jordan's hit the wrong ball and still managed to make the one down the rail. And then the second shot, absolutely brilliant to go on and off the bottom cushion with lots of side and avoid the black and the yellows to land absolutely perfect on the ball. He knocked safe and then made very light clearance for the work after there. So a strange visit to the table for, or a very strange first shot on that visit to the table for Jordan, but does tie things up.
Yeah, just having a little word with himself there. Settle the nerves. 5 apiece.
Frame 11.
6 minutes and
Phil
change
Harrison to break. 5 frames all.
remain of this quarter-final. Who will be our first Masters semi-finalist? Goodness me, hit those hard. We're in a closed-off room here at the Players' Lounge, and I could hear those walls echo through the door, through the walls. He crunched that.
Maybe a hint of frustration coming through. Looks like he can only go for reds here, but he won't mind that too much. The reds are a decent chance. All the reds have a pocket. 8 ball be the hardest to land on, and it's not that difficult.
What odds on another 6 red shootout?
Yeah, I think fairly high right now. You expect Phil to make this clearance and go one ahead, although strange things have been happening. But there would still be plenty of time left for another frame or two. I'm not sure I'd want the red over the bottom left-hand corner pocket to be my last ball onto the 8 ball, but the way that Phil's going about this, I think that's what he's playing for. It's not terrible, and it may be the better option than the rest of the balls that are on the table, but it's just could be a slightly awkward positional shot. If he gets his cue ball to the bottom cushion, then it's not too bad. He may just stun to the middle of the table. Yeah, middle of the table it is. No, he's controlled that pretty well. Slightly hampered queuing, but not too bad.
Yeah, he's fine. is to go in front.
Frame.
Never doubted him there, did you? When the chips have been down, Phil Harrison has generally stood up to be counted.
Yeah, set.
There's been a couple of awry shots from both players in this match. Both players on this night. But no doubt about it, Phil Harrison, when he's been asked a big question, has generally come up with a big answer. Not always been the case with Jordan tonight.
12th frame.
Yeah, and of course that frame takes Phil one frame away from victory. Forget about the match clock, although that's what we're focusing on.
He's caught them beautifully.
8-ball in motion again, this time not near a pocket, but certainly getting good movement on it.
Watch that cue ball, it's
Extension
perfect. Straight up the middle of the table.
Red ball's in play.
Okay, if the red nearest the 8-ball goes, and I'm pretty confident it does, then that's no problem. So it's just the one on the left-hand side, the one he's nearest to now, that's going to be a problem. Double's not too bad for that ball once this one's out of the way, or he could try and move into it. He's gone to move it, and he's missed it. But when you try and move it early, you land on the next ball, and you can either try and move it again, or you can then go back and play for the double.
You'll struggle to find a quicker rerouter than Jordan Shepard as well. Doesn't tend to dwindle in an instance like that. 3 minutes remain.
This time he is playing for the double. In fact, he may well be playing back-to-back doubles the way these have landed. Nope, not played back-to-back. That's not ideal. He tried to land on that one rather than just accepting another double. Delicate shot.
Oh, this is
cross-doubling it instead.
Well, Phil Harrison, here's your chance.
Foul. Ball in hand. Time running.
Jordan Shepard furious himself. Phil Harrison, a massive opportunity.
Yeah, forget the match clock, forget everything else. You don't even have to worry about your shot clock. Just focus on potting these next 4 balls, and you are in finals night. And for a player of Phil's ability, it could not be simpler.
Or hasn't he grafted tonight? Goodness me, Phil Harrison's done it the hard way. But Phil Harrison is a semi-finalist in the Masters. A smile shared with Jordan Shepard. A relieved smile from Phil Harrison. We've seen the whole catalogue of Phil Harrison reactions tonight, but in the end, the grimace has been replaced with a beaming smile. The farmer is through to the semis.
Yeah, he's going to be really pleased with that. I think you said grafted. He really had to graft his way through that. He probably wasn't at his fluent best the way we saw him in the previous round when he came through, but he worked really hard. And whenever he was asked a big question, he came up with the answer. He really made a couple of key pressure clearances, especially in his first match tonight, and then obviously in this this second match, when the match was on the line, he came up with a brilliant clearance there to edge back in front and kept asking the question of Jordan Shepard. And okay, he had a couple of golden breaks which really helped him, but he was never quite at his best in that match.
Absolutely. Well, Phil Harrison's done it. He is our first Masters semi-finalist, and we will hear from him when we return. Well, welcome back. What a night at the Ultimate Pool Masters. But at the end of it all, that man there is a semi-finalist. Phil the Farmer Harrison. He joins me now. Phil, first of all, a huge congratulations. The first question I asked you earlier was, Have you got your breath back? How are you feeling? Same question, I guess.
Yeah.
A ridiculous night. How do you sum it up?
Yeah, it was mad. I mean, obviously, after playing Rob, obviously, really, I was out, really. All he has to do is roll the ball in the middle and roll the ball in the corner and just clear up, really. But he just somehow made a mistake. And obviously, I'm running around the table and obviously, I've gone straight back on and I felt like I was still playing 15 seconds a shot. And I just couldn't settle down. I felt like a jack in a box. And, but it was good night. And obviously, with Jordan, the way he plays is always going to be a good game. And I just managed to take a few good finishes. Obviously, I made a few silly errors, but I felt really hot out there, and the queue was great. It was hard work. But good fun.
Well, you say Jack in the box, Phil. We saw the full catalogue of Phil Harrison emotions tonight, whether it be grimaces off a poor position, sad faces after a break, or celebrations at the end. It was a crazy night. It talks to me particularly about the pressure pots, though, because there was a couple of mistakes from everyone tonight, but when the chips were down, it seemed you really had the mettle to keep it together.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the finish to go 6-5, was it? I'm not sure, but obviously, I just have to stab a red in, screw back a couple inches, which I was worried about pushing the ball, so I got them, and then obviously I'm on my last red, and I thought don't hit it too hard and don't underhit it, just try and lay them right, and I came a little bit too far for my like it, and obviously bridging over the yellow slightly, I'm a little bit prone to missing one or two of those, but luckily I kept still and just knocked the black in, and it's tough out there. It's really tough. 15 seconds a shot is really tough.
Well, you've made it through to finals night, our first semi-finalist. A big congratulations for that.
Thank you.
How much are you looking forward to that now? Only have to wait a few weeks this time.
Yeah, I know. I'm buzzing. Looking forward to it. And I can't wait.
We can't wait to watch you as well. Congratulations.
Cheers, mate.
Tonight.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's take a look at that draw one. This is what it looks like. The draw one is completed, Simon. Did you think it?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was expecting tonight, but what we did see was plenty of drama. There was a lot of twists and turns along the way, but for me, Phil Harrison deserved to go through and be the man from that first quarter of the draw into finals night. I felt like when he really was asked the question, he stood up at the absolute pressure moment and came up with the goods. You can remember back to his first match tonight against Rob. He was 5-2 down and came up with 3 finishes from the break on the trot. Then he made a bad mistake, but he still had the balls to be able to make that amazing counter clearance with very little time on the clock just to get him into that 6-red shootout, which obviously he managed to get through. And the same thing in this match, he kept edging ahead of Jordan, and Jordan kept pulling him back with golden breaks and a couple of good clearances. But then Phil's made a bad mistake, and he's not let that affect him. He's just waited for his next opportunity, and he took that brilliant break dish to go 6-5 in front, and then a lovely counter clearance at the end just to wrap things up. So yeah, when it was really on the line, he came up with the goods tonight.
He certainly did, and a big congratulations to Phil. He has really had to work hard for that tonight. He's had to work hard all tournament. He's run the gauntlet, but he's got through. Greg Batten, Mark Farnsworth, Rob Chilton and Jordan Shepard seen away, and he has some more to meet on finals night. This is coming up for you next week, though. Carl Sutton against Sam Bircher, Josh Killer Kane against the Destroyer, Declan Brennan. One man will join Phil Harrison. That will be his semi-final opponent. One of those 4 men know who they will have to face. That's all to come next week, though. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Ultimate Pool The Masters. We will see you next week on Free Sports. Same time, same place. See you then.
This program is brought to you by Apply Mortgages.